Do you want me to our full contribution? Just saying, I mean, if they want to. Yeah.
That's made up of what?
No, I already looked at the costs are in the spreadsheet and it already has built in the future value based on 100%.
Oh, no, let it get.
Hey, LT, you get tonight?
And we're just.
Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for August 6th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Here.
Commissioner Parnes,
We see him on screen.
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Here.
Mayor Gantz.
Here. If we could all please stand for a moment of silence and our pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could have approval of the regular city commission meeting minutes of July 9th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner
Second.
Hudak, second by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes for the police pension fund meeting minutes of July 27th, March 6th, and May 23rd. Our Marine Advisory Board meeting minutes of March 15th, 2024. Firefighters Pension Fund meeting minutes of April 11th, 2024. Planning and Zoning Board meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2024. Community Appearance Board meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2024. Co-compliance meeting minutes of May 31st and June 11th of 2024. Our African American Heritage Board meeting minutes of June 13th, 2024. And the Hillsborough Inlet District meeting minutes of June 17th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parnes, seconded by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Right, approval of our agenda tonight for August 6th, 2024.
Motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Madam Clerk?
For those attending via Zoom online, wishing to speak under public comment or on an item that's open for public input, please click raise hand at the bottom under the reactions tab and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Gantz. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Gantz. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *6. Thank you.
Thank you. The attorney,
Would you like me to announce the presentations? Mike?
please.
First presentation tonight is a presentation by Marty Kier, the Broward County Property Appraiser regarding property taxes and values.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And may I, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you all, as always, for having me. I always like to come this week in particular because I always tell everybody I've lived in Broward County my entire life, but there is one place I have lived every single year of my life for 1 week a year, and that's in Deerfield Beach, because my family from all over the country come to the Emerald Seas Beach Resort, which is right in Deerfield Beach, and we stay there for a week, and we kind of love Deerfield Beach. So I'm a resident this week, and I really appreciate the great work that y'all do. But before I quickly talk about how we can help the Deerfield Beach community, and before I talk about property values, and of course, something I always like to talk about, which is cracking down on title fraud, I wanted to thank you all. You know, I think Deerfield Beach, as I said before, is really a fantastic community. I've actually never met somebody that lives in Deerfield Beach that dislikes living in Deerfield Beach. And I think so much of that is because of the great work that you all do, the great services you all provide. And actually, I think the property values that you'll see are going up again. And that's because people are wanting to move into an amazing place like this. And I also want to thank your staff. You know, every single week we work with every single staff, and they provide us all the permits that have been pulled all throughout the county, so we can make sure we capture all the value to put it on the tax roll. And I can tell you, there is no staff in Broward County that is easier to work with, that's more courteous, and that really treats our employees with respect than the city of Deerfield Beach. They really are fantastic. I think you all employed some really wonderful people. And with that said, Mr. Mayor, just for the residents, there are a few main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or essentially assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is because when a resident of Deerfield Beach pays their property taxes, the amount of taxes they pay is a relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by you all, the school board, the county commission, all other taxing authorities. So the most important thing we want to do is just make sure we get it right. And as you know, Broward County is a massive place. More people live here than 13 states, the District of Columbia, and all U.S. territories except Puerto Rico. That's how big it is. And there are more parcels that we appraise than many states. And even though the people in our office do a very good job and their assessments are very accurate, mistakes can occur, or maybe people have information about their property that we don't have that could help us bring down their value, which could bring down their amount of property taxes. And so on August 13th, every single resident that owns property in Deerfield Beach is going to get a very important document from me in the mail. The Truth and Millage Notice. It's not a tax bill. It's basically a document so people can make sure they don't overly pay in their property taxes. And it's going to show a few things. It'll show the value of the property for tax purposes. It'll show all the tax saving exemptions they're currently getting. It'll show the dates and times that you all, the county commission, the school board, and all other taxing authorities are going to be discussing their tax rates. And it'll show the proposed amount of property taxes they're going to be asked to pay for this year. And I always tell everybody, when you get that document, if you have any concern with the value of your property, or you're not getting every tax saving exemption you're entitled to, just call me by September 18th so we can make sure your value is correct, or we'll bring it down if we can. And we'll make sure you get every exemption you're entitled to that you qualify for under the law, so you can save your money in your property taxes. And with regard to that, my favorite thing we do in our office is I love giving property tax exemption because it does help people save money to put a little bit more money in their pocket. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law that people can qualify for. The most important one is the homestead exemption. If somebody lives here, it's where they're registered to vote. If they don't vote, where their declaration of domicile, where their card's registered to, this is where they live and they raise their family. They get that very important exemption. It can save them a whole lot of money, but it does two things. The first thing it does is it takes $50,000 of value off the tax roll they don't pay taxes on. It can save them about $1,000 a year. But most importantly, it really protects them going forward. Because every year after you have a homestead exemption, the value of your tax line cannot go more than a maximum of 3%. And that is so important right now because once again, property values in Deerfield Beach have gone up. And so I always tell everybody, if you haven't filed for homestead exemption, just call our office by September 18th. We'll make sure it's applied to your tax bill so the value of your tax sum won't go up more than 3%, and your taxable value won't skyrocket with your market value based on what people are paying for properties. Once you get that, there are lots of other exemptions. There are exemptions for seniors, for veterans, for people who are visually impaired, for other people with disabilities, for first responders. There are lots of exemptions. And when you look at your trim notice on August 13th when you get it, if there's an exemption on there that you're not getting, give our office a call by September 18th. We'll make sure you get it so they'll be applied to your tax bill. The other thing I want to talk about, Mr. Mayor, is where property values are right now in Deerfield Beach. And once again, property values are going up. And the reason they're going up is because people are coming from all over the world. They're coming to Deerfield Beach and they're paying a lot of money for properties, top dollar for properties. Every single day they're doing it. They're paying more this year than they did last year, than before that, the year before that, and the year before that. And that's really what's driving all these values up. And so to give you an idea, in 2023, if you sold all the commercial and residential property on the open market, you would have got right about $15.1 billion here in Deerfield Beach. Fast forward just 1 year to 2024, you would have got about $16.755 billion. That's a 10.5% increase in market value, which is a pretty big number. Now, the taxable value is the value that you're going to be looking at, that you're going to set your millage rate on to determine the amount of money that you need to provide great services to the people of Deerfield Beach. And in 2023, the taxable value was right about $9.86 billion, which is a very healthy number. Fast forward just 1 year, there's been a 9.8% increase in taxable value to right about $10.824 billion. And to put that in perspective, if you keep your millage rate the same, which is right about 6.0018, that's your operating millage rate, the additional revenue you'll get this year over last year will be right about $5.75 million. And what's very important to note about that is the vast majority of property owners in Deerfield Beach are not going to see the brunt of that increase because they're homesteaded property owners. The value of their tax then can't go up more than 3%. It's really a lot of people coming into Deerfield Beach and making Deerfield Beach their home and paying top dollar for properties, and a good amount of new construction that was added to the tax roll that's also increasing that number. There was $41.4 million of new construction added to the tax roll. And to give you an idea, which I thought was very interesting, the 4 largest additions that were added to the tax roll were all single-family homes, the largest being about $4 million. There is 18,013 homestead exemptions here within the city of Deerfield Beach. You have 2,076 seniors who receive a low-income senior exemption. It really helps them save money. And something I'm really proud about is you have 200 long-term seniors that pay no property taxes to the city of Deerfield Beach or the county commission. And I really just want to thank you for that. You know, not every city has a long-term senior exemption. It doesn't have it, but Deerfield Beach does. About half our cities do, you do. And what that basically means is if you were a senior that's over 65 years of age, you made under last year right about $36,000. If you've been in your home for 25 years or more and the value of your home is under $250,000, you're fully exempt from property taxes. So to meet that threshold is very, very difficult. Not a whole lot of people can get it. And what that basically means is the loss of revenue to you all is minimal. It's not even, you don't even see it. But to those seniors who struggle to make ends meet, that's a lot of money they can put in their pocket and they can have a better life. And I really appreciate the fact that you all have adopted that. I hope that every single city in Broward County does the same thing because it's the right thing to do. You also have 2,151 widows who receive a pretty substantial exemption. And something that I think is pretty cool is you have 158 American Hero, totally permanently disabled veterans who pay no property taxes to the city of Deerfield Beach. Currently, the median sale price of a single-family home in Deerfield Beach is right about $600,000. What's interesting about that is that's $50,000 more than what the median price was last year, but the average taxable value is about $203,000. That's because the vast majority of homeowners here in Deerfield Beach don't want to leave because Deerfield Beach is just that awesome. And so they stay here for a very, very long time. They've been protected by the Save Our Homes cap. So the value of their tax on is much, much lower than what their market value is for these properties. The same thing for condominiums. The median value of a condominium parcel is about $185,750. That's right about $6,000 more than last year, but the average taxable value is $99,000 because a lot of the people that own condominiums have been there for a long time and they're protected by that very important cap. The other thing, Mr. Mayor, and to the commission that I was just hoping to briefly talk about is kind of where we are right now when it comes to cracking down on title fraud. And I like to talk about this everywhere because, as you know, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. It's the capital of the world because you have criminals, and that's what they are. And what they do is they walk into the recording division of every county every single day in the state of Florida. They file fake deeds on people's properties, and they take those deeds and they try to extort people for money or mortgage rent or sell the property. They do it all the time. And the reason it's so easy for them is the recording division for every county has a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. So you have these criminals, they walk in, they file a fake deed, and they do something nefarious with it. So the first thing we wanted to do was give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. So a few years ago now, we came up with a fantastic program called Owner Alert. It's really a free notification program to let people know if a fake document has been filed in their property trying to steal it. And since we started it, we've actually had about 250,000 homeowners sign up for our Owner Alert program, which I think is pretty fantastic in Broward County. And something I think is very neat in Deerfield Beach, 50% of all of your homesteaded property owners have signed up for our Owner Alert system. It's a really neat thing. And if you sign up for our Owner Alert system, that means that if somebody files a deed on your property, whether it's legitimate or not, you're going to get an email notification. You can get a text message notification. You can even get a hard copy in the mail. And something that's really great is the Florida legislature this year passed a fantastic law that the governor signs that actually exempted all information we collect when somebody signs up for Owner Alert, their emails, their phone numbers, even the fact that they signed up, it's exempt from public disclosure. So the information can only be used for one purpose and one purpose only, to alert somebody if there's been a title change to their property. And as you know, I spoke about this last year. When I started our Owner Alert program, I started getting phone calls from residents. And they would say, Marty, I got an alert from your office that somebody filed a fake deed on my property, but I didn't do it. And then I got more and more and more. And I realized how big of a deal it was and how many people were actually trying to steal properties from legitimate people in Broward County. So I came up with a pretty much of a different idea. I wanted to work with law enforcement, build criminal cases, and put the people in jail who are doing this. So I called the Florida Department of Revenue and I asked them for permission to do it. And I gave them a little heartburn. And they go, Marty, you're a property appraiser. You determine the value of properties. You give tax saving exemptions. You're not law enforcement, but we understand this is a big deal for South Florida. So we'll approve your program and make you the guinea pig for the rest of the state and see if it works. I go, great. I then went to the Broward County Commission and I asked all 9 county commissioners if they would fund my new crimes against property team. And all 9 said, absolutely, Marty, we'll give you whatever you need. I then went to see Sheriff Tony and I go, Sheriff Tony, I have a problem. I go, I have this really great program in my office, my crimes against property team, but I'm not law enforcement. You are. I can't arrest people, issue probable cause affidavits, search warrants. I can't do the job of law enforcement. You can do it. Can we work together? And Sheriff Tony said, absolutely, Marty. And we actually entered into an agreement to work together. And he's assigned now 3 sheriff's detectives that work with our office and in our office so we can actually do the job of law enforcement. I then went to see Harold Pryor, our state attorney. And I go, Harold, you know, the sheriff and I, we're friends and we're working together. We're going to build these criminal cases. If we bring you cases you think are prosecutorial, would you prosecute the people that are doing this? And he goes, absolutely, Marty. And he assigned an assistant state attorney to work with our office so we can actually prosecute the people that are stealing people's homes. And over the past couple years now, we've been very successful. We've had hundreds of criminal investigations. We've had dozens and dozens and dozens of arrests. We've had numerous convictions, and we've been able to work with the court system to get people's property back to them in a much more expeditious and cost-efficient manner. And just for the residents of Deerfield Beach, I'd love to give you a few examples, because I really think all these examples, each which are a little bit different, really show just how bad the people are that try to do this and the extent that they're going to go to try to steal somebody's property. The first few examples I want to talk about are ones I spoke about last year. Last year, they were arrests. Now they're convictions. And I want to tell you what the outcome was of these cases. The first case involved a married couple, 2 wives. One of the wives worked for one of our hospital districts. The other wife worked in the real estate industry. The wife that worked in the hospital district would find out when people would pass on. She would then take their confidential information, including their social security numbers, give it to her wife in the real estate industry, who would find that they had property in Broward County and heirs here. If they had property and no heirs, they'd file fake deeds on the properties. They'd then sell the properties on Zillow, mortgage the properties, rent the properties. They profited in the amount of millions of dollars. But something I'm very happy about is they were prosecuted, they were found guilty, and they're serving time in prison. The other case that I spoke about last year involved a person not from Broward County. He was from Miami-Dade County. And he somehow found out that there was a senior that was very sick and very bedridden that owned a property in Southwest Ranches free and clear of a mortgage. And what he did was he filed a fake deed. He stole the property. He then took out a $500,000 mortgage on that senior's property. Well, fortunately, he also was tried. He was convicted. He was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, and we recovered most of the money. Another one I wanted to talk about that I spoke about last year was one of our biggest cases. It involved people who were trying to use the court system to steal people's properties. And here's what they would do. The ringleader would file quiet title actions in circuit court, basically lawsuits in circuit court, saying this senior or this bank or this person no longer wanted the property. The return of service would go to the guy's buddy who was in a mobile home in Hillsborough County. And he would say, oh, yeah, I represent that senior, that bank, that person. Hey, they don't want the property. I'm putting this guy's name or his company's name. They sold many properties in Broward County. Fortunately, the ringleader was sentenced to 8 years in prison, followed by 10 years probation, $370,000 of restitution. And if he violates his probation after he's out of prison, he goes to jail for life. Also, one of his cohorts was actually found guilty, was given 5 years probation, and was actually also ordered deported to her home country of Moldova, an Eastern European country, and she's not allowed to turn to the U.S. A few other cases I wanted to quickly talk about that are actually new arrests. And actually, some of these arrests just occurred over the past month. The first one that I just been talking about involved a lawyer. The lawyer has been accused and was arrested and is being charged with helping another person steal another person's property in Cooper City. And I wanted to bring that up because although she has not yet been convicted, I think that case right there shows that everybody does this. It doesn't matter who the person is. We've had lawyers, we've had people who didn't go to college, we've had teachers, we've had people who, well, a person was a physician's assistant. It can be just about anybody. So everybody has to be vigilant because there is a lot of people out there that are going to try to defraud people of their property. Another case happened very, very recently, and the arrest actually happened 2 weeks ago. And in this situation, let me tell you about the victims. The 2 victims were in love for a very long time. One gentleman was named Walter, and Walter was an American hero. He served in the U.S. Army and at the U.S. Air Force, and at the same time served 18 years as a member of the Broward Sheriff's Office. The second victim was his wife. In the 1970s, they got married and they bought a home in Pembroke Pines. Then they got divorced thereafter, but they decided to live together in that home for a long time. Walter also bought another townhouse very close to there, but they still lived in their marital home. In 2020, many decades later, Vivian, who was his former wife, got very sick, and a caregiver came to take care of her. Vivian then passed on. Over the next 3 years, Walter would basically go back and forth between the two homes, their former marital home and his townhouse. And that was kind of his routine every single day. He would check the mail, see if they were okay, go back and forth. Then all of a sudden, the neighbors noticed Walter wasn't going back and forth anymore. So they called the police. The police went in, they found out that Walter had passed on in that home. About a week later, the home was then broken into. And just a couple minutes after that, the cameras showed that the former caregiver came to the home and called the police saying that the home was broken into. The police came to the home. They went inside, allegedly with the former caregiver. And for some reason, the police left both that home and they actually told her about the townhouse. They left them in her care. Then what occurred was both homes were cleaned out. 2 alleged false deeds were filed on the property. They allegedly tried to sell both properties, and they allegedly opened up a fake probate estate where they were trying to get about $1 million that Walter had accumulated throughout his life. Fortunately, the heirs were able to come forward. They were very worried about their inheritance. They contacted our office, and we were able to investigate the matter, and both the caregiver and the notary were arrested 2 weeks ago. And again, you're innocent until proven guilty, but they're going to have their day in court, and I believe they will be found guilty. The last one I wanted to quickly talk about, and I can talk about a lot of them, but this one really shows the extent that people will go to try to steal people's properties. There was a man who made a little bit of a mistake. He called our office and he said, you know what, my 96-year-old grandmother, she just died. She lived in Tamarack and she left me her property. How do I get in my name? Well, our office said, well, you have to show us a deed that's in your name or a will that's been probated, maybe an order of the court. And he goes, oh, I'll get you that tomorrow. And the next day he sent us a fake deed and a fake will. And you knew it was fake right off because where the notary is supposed to say County of Broward, to say County of Florida, things of that nature. We then opened up a criminal investigation. And during the course of the investigation, we found out that he actually found a legitimate buyer for the property. He was squatting in the property and he found a legitimate buyer for the property. We also found out who the lawyer was going to be that was going to handle the closing for that legitimate buyer. And we asked him to go through with the closing. They went through with the closing, he signed the papers, and as soon as he did it, BSO then arrested them. And as soon as they arrested him, they then searched his car. And when they searched his car, they found a treasure trove of information about how he was trying to defraud the Broward County public. They found the identities of 53 Broward County residents. They found their credit card information, their PIN numbers, their social security information, their tax returns. This guy was so smart, they even found a fake checkbook that was being drawn on a very legitimate Broward County business where he was pretending he was an employee of that business and counting and cashing the checks in the amount of thousands of dollars. I wanted to bring those stories up, and I can bring up so many more because I hope that every single resident of Deerfield Beach that hasn't signed up for our Owner Alert program, please sign up. It's there to protect your most important asset, your home. It's easy to sign up, and it's a really great program. And the second reason I like to talk about this, I like to talk about this everywhere because I want everybody out there to know that if they want to steal somebody's home in Broward County or their property in Broward County, they're not welcome here, and we're going to make sure they go to jail for a long time. With that said, Mr. Mayor, I've had about 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke. I'm a little wired, and I get very excited about property appraiser stuff. But is there any questions that I can answer of y'all? I just appreciate so much y'all having me today.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Yes, I do have good. So when a resident has been alerted
Mhm.
that someone has failed, tried to get a fake deed on their house and that sort of thing, what would be the resident's next action?
It's such a great question, Ben. I always forget to bring this up, and it's so important. So thank you very much for reminding me. So what will occur is once you get alerted, whether it's through an email or a text message or even a hard copy in the mail, it's going to have instructions as to what to do. One thing is they're going to want you to call our office, and we're going to then hopefully be able to not update the tax roll. So basically, you're not updating the owner information to the people with the fake deed. The second thing it does, it allows our office in conjunction with the Broward Sheriff's Office, and if it's in Fort Lauderdale with Fort Lauderdale or whichever city PD it is, to open up a criminal investigation for the people who are trying to steal it. And then there's other things it'll tell you to do as well. For example, you might want to alert your mortgage company. There are a lot of different things to do. But what's very, very important, the reason I like to tout our Owner Alert program so much is here's what happens. Once the first fraudulent act is filing the fake deed, and that's a fraudulent act, but then the bad person has to take that deed and do something nefarious with it. They have to take a mortgage on the property, rent the property, sell the property. They have to really cloud the title, and that can take some time. So if you're alerted right off the top that there's been a deed filed on the property, as soon as you call our office and take the steps in there, you can make sure that somebody can't steal your property, and you can really get it back very, very quickly, hopefully at no expense to the property owner. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, you all are awesome. I'm going to head back to the Emerald Seas Beach Resort. And I thank you all very, very much. And actually, I'm going to the Cove as well, which is awesome, by the way. But thank you all again for the great work that you all do. Thanks so much for having me. As I said before, I'm a huge fan of Deerfield Beach. And please tell no other coastal city this. I actually think you have the best beach in Broward County. But that's it. Thanks, everybody. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Marty.
Item number 2 on tonight's agenda is a certificate of recognition presented by Captain Hoffstein to BSO law enforcement staff.
Come on down, gentlemen. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, citizens of Deerfield Beach. Always an honor to be here. Thank you, Major Russo from our Executive Command is also in attendance to recognize these outstanding employees. At BSO, our mantra is excellence in service. I'm here to recognize these employees' excellence in service. You know I brought quite a gang here. This is 4% of our staff. And I can tell you all of our staff, all 151 of them, 150, and I'm not included, I'm just a conductor of this orchestra, work really hard and make amazing music and amazing results. But this 4 to 5% here is really the cream of the crop, persistently outstanding employees. All of these individuals have gone above and beyond, and the results they are providing to this community are really outstanding. Every single one of these employees here have demonstrated outstanding tactics, attention to duty, and safety. Safety for both themselves and the people they're dealing with that resulted in the apprehension of a criminal during a crime in progress or the saving of a life. And while they've all demonstrated personal excellence, most importantly, and why there are so many employees here together, is they did so collectively as a team. We function as a team, we stay safe as a team, we stay alive as a team. And it's the importance of recognizing all of you as the team that you are. First, starting from the right to the left, I'm introducing the members of our illustrious crime suppression team. Sergeant Kevin Abrams, our fearless leader, Detective John Brown, Detective John Sapanero, Detective Jared Walker, Detective Osvaldo Mundez Brito. There he is, a little reverse order here, and Detective Stanley Vensky. You know, I'm always talking about the amazing work they do, and 99% of the time they're operating in the shadows like the amazing crime-fighting ninjas that they are. But this is that 1% I actually got them out in the limelight to be recognized. And it's for good reason. Today, they were also recognized at our annual awards ceremony where they received the coveted Grand Cordon Unit of the Year award from the sheriff. And that's the amazing work they've done that's not only recognized by me, but by the entire agency and community. Let me tell you a couple things about what they've done. And in addition to all the countless guns and drugs and things I've told you about over the years, during June and July 2024, these detectives garnered intelligence culminating in the 2 residential search warrants that they executed on Northwest 2nd Terrace and West Sample Road. These search warrants resulted in the seizure of 51 bags of PVP, aka known as Flocka, on the street, 27 grams of crack cocaine, 2.3 grams of fentanyl, which equates to 766 lethal doses of fentanyl, 41 grams of oxycodone, nearly a kilo of marijuana, a fully auto compact machine gun with a high-capacity drum magazine, a compact pistol, a plethora of ammunition, and 4 felons were also taken into custody along with all these items. Unbelievable work. That's just a snapshot of what they do every month. But the real creme de la creme here, June 14, 2024, these detectives identified an armed kidnapping suspect and engaged in a 16-mile chase on I-95 into Palm Beach County. A daring pit maneuver, that is a maneuver that we do to actually stop another vehicle with our vehicle. Very, very dangerous maneuver, was executed by Detective Brown. Immobilizing the suspect vehicle, and both the suspects that were inside the vehicle were safely placed into custody. And I'm telling you, that's what I always tout is the safety. After the high tense situation of a high-speed pursuit, for everything to end with no injury and individuals taken into custody safely is amazing. But also after this, I received an email from an FHP trooper who happened to be on the parked side of the highway ahead of the chase as it unfolded. He explained that he witnessed all this real time in his rearview mirror, that had it not been for Detective Brown's timely and effective pit maneuver, the suspect vehicle surely would have struck his patrol car with deadly and catastrophic results. For this, the team not only earns this recognition tonight, but Detective Brown has also been nominated for the agency's life-saving award for saving the life of that trooper for taking the intervention when he took it. I'm moving on down the line here. Mike, come on, step forward here. Detective Andrew Hales and Mike McKenna on the right. That's Andrew on the left, Mike on the right. On the evening, during an evening of July, as they do many evenings, these two were conducting proactive traffic enforcement on the streets of Deerfield. Mayor, note, proactive traffic enforcement, 24/7. During one traffic stop and based on their combined keen investigative skills and observations, a driver and passenger were detained. The most critical observation was a semi-automatic pistol within immediate reach of the driver, unholstered and ready for use. In addition to securing that weapon and the driver, who could have obviously easily accessed that weapon, they also recovered 14 grams of marijuana, 7 grams of crack cocaine, and 14 vials of THC, which was headed for our streets. The driver was also discovered to be a convicted felon out of Illinois. So obviously I need not say how dangerous this situation was and how many ways it could have gone off the rails and jeopardized everybody's safety involved. But these deputies routinely, demonstrate that type of proactivity, that type of tenacity in the work that they're doing on our streets. And for that reason, Deputy Hales is now becoming Detective Hales as of Saturday, and Deputy McKenna is not far behind him. He's also going to be a detective soon. So very, very proud of the work that they're doing. Moving on down here, I'm very honored to recognize, this is a community service aide, Alando Baptiste. Alando, he fills a special role. Not only does he do an exemplary job as a community service aide, doing exactly that, serving our community, but he's also been assigned to our district real-time crime center, which is very unique to this city, as you're aware. We have all this unique technology that many cities and districts do not have, which has been just hugely beneficial in fighting crime. On July 11th, Alando successfully identified a subject wearing an electronic monitoring device that matched the exact route of a vehicle with a stolen tag operating within our city. This pivotal identification not only facilitated the identification of a suspect, but also demonstrated Alando's meticulous attention to detail and commitment to public safety. The suspect was eventually apprehended in Delray Beach, where 3 stolen vehicles were recovered in his possession, all of which at one point hit an LPR within our city. So this subject had these stolen cars in Delray, but was operating all of these vehicles during his nefarious activities within Deerfield Beach. Alando consistently goes above and beyond in his duties, providing vital support to our road deputies. His proactive efforts in setting perimeters to catch burglars in the act have been instrumental in several successful operations. Additionally, Alando routinely flags vehicle tags associated with felonious crimes, contributing to our crime prevention and apprehensions. He routinely makes it a duty to handle non-priority calls by telephone, alleviating the workload from our deputies and ensuring efficient use of resources, allowing the deputies to be more proactive and focus on higher priority tasks and crimes. The dedication and exceptional performance of Alando are a testament to his value as an asset to our organization. His contributions not only enhance the safety and security of our community, but exemplify the high standards and excellence in service that the Broward Sheriff's Office strives to maintain. Thank you, Alando, for your fantastic work. Moving on, last but not least, a special recognition here for Deputy Jeremy Loaiza. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Jeremy actually is not assigned to Deerfield Beach, but Jeremy is a proud resident of Deerfield Beach. And when he's not working his regular assignment in Central Broward, he routinely works overtime here in Deerfield Beach. Every time he works in our city, he does outstanding police work. You may be familiar with a sad and tragic recent incident where on July 23rd, a young man, a very young man, a young boy lost his hand due to mishandling of fireworks. I'm going to read this verbatim, this nomination from Lieutenant Levine. On July 23rd, Deputy Loaiza was working an overtime shift in the Deerfield Beach District. At approximately 10:15 a.m., a call for service was received. One call referenced an explosion, and a second call was from a hysterical woman that a child was injured. Now, of course, I was here. I listened to that. They had no idea what they were rushing into. But without hesitation, Deerfield Beach deputies, including Deputy Loaiza, immediately responded to the scene. Deputy Loaiza located the 6-year-old boy sitting in a chair and covered in blood. The boy was hysterical and clearly missing his entire left hand. Deputy Loaiza remained calm and immediately applied a tourniquet to the boy's arm. When Deerfield Beach Fire Rescue responded, they noted the tourniquet was applied so well, better than even the experts usually do, that it surely saved the life of the 6-year-old boy. Deputy Loaiza's quick response to an emergency call and his immediate rendering of life-saving aid to the critically injured child helped medical staff to stabilize and save the life of this young boy, who is going to recover, fortunately. And for this outstanding work, all of you, I just give you a round of applause. And I thank you for all that you do for this community.
One, two, three.
Item number 3 on tonight's agenda is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving and adopting the fiscal year 2024-2025 Community Development Block Grant CDBG Annual Action Plan and use of the projected $708,864 in CDBG funds, authorizing the reallocation of $77,754.40 in CDBG funds from program years 2018 through 2021, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. My name is Anisha Nicholas. I am the Assistant Director of the Community Services Department. And today I will be presenting on the proposed Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. So today, through the presentation, we'll touch on the purpose of having the presentation. We'll touch on we'll give an overview of the action plan. The CDBG program will outline the priorities as well as the activities that will be funded and touch on the citizen participation process. So the intent of this presentation is to provide a public with an overview of the action plan. This is important because it's also a requirement of the receipt of the CDBG funds. And Community Development Block Grant was established by HUD. It is federally funded, and the goal of the program is to provide a decent housing, suitable living environment, as well as better economic opportunities for low to moderate income persons. The City of Deerfield Beach has been an entitlement community since 2000, fiscal year 2000 to be exact, and we receive an annual allocation each year since then. For an activity to be eligible for CDBG funds, it must meet the HUD's national objectives. And they include, it must benefit low to moderate income persons, it must aid in the prevention and elimination of slum and blight, and it must address an urgent community development needs. That being said, in order to fall into the slum and blight category, that area must be designated by City Commission. The city's fiscal year 24-25 allocation of CDBG funds is about $709,000. The specific amount will be touched on when we go through the activities that will be funded. And of that amount, 70% of those funds must benefit low and moderate income persons. So in order to income qualify for CDBG funds, HUD releases income limits each year. As of April 1st, 2024, the area median income is $89,100 for Broward County. What that means is anyone that benefits from the CDBG program, they must meet the threshold of up to 80% of the area median income. So if you look at the chart on the presentation, take a household size for about 4. That person's income cannot exceed $84,450. Now, there's an additional section there specific to 81 to 120% area median income. That information was included because the city does leverage additional funds for its affordable housing program. And with that, some folks may qualify for the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program. And as a visual illustration of where we fall as a city for low to moderate income, the areas in red, pink represent the areas that have more than 51% persons living with a low to moderate income. Eligible activities of CDBG includes, just to name a few, public service, rehabilitation, microenterprise, home ownership assistance, and program administration costs. Now, of those activities that are included, the city has been able to provide services or activities relating to quite a few over the years. So the action plan is a mandate by HUD because it complements the 5-year consolidated plan. The consolidated plan includes priorities that the city must include strategies as well as priorities that supports the action plan. With the action plan itself, it includes the summary and the specific resources for that given year that will be completed to address the city's housing and community development needs. The priorities that are complements the consolidated plan and is included in the action plan includes increased access to affordable housing, providing for infrastructure improvements, and increasing access to public services. This is now tied into the proposed activities for fiscal year 2024 and 2025. So the specific amount of funding that the city receives is $708,864. Of that amount, 20% has been allocated to program administration costs, about 45% to a public infrastructure improvement project, more specifically sidewalk improvements. About 23% of the funding has been allocated to the affordable housing program, more specifically housing rehabilitation and purchase assistance, and the remaining 12% has been allocated to public service activities. And those are namely the senior transportation program, the Alzheimer's and adult daycare services and activities, and also senior health and wellness activities. In addition to the annual allocation that the city has received, it has been identified that there are additional funding that are due for reallocation. And that is because some of the projects that were completed in prior years, dating back to 2018 up until 2021, were completed with remaining balances. Once that project is closed out, it essentially goes back into that pot of funding, and it must be reassigned in order for the city to utilize those funds. So the intent of including the reallocation there is to allow us the opportunity to reassign the funds and then also to close out the grant term. Again, to put it into perspective, the city has about 7 years, to utilize its CDBG funding. That being said, the reallocation amount is about $77,700, and that amount the city is proposing to reallocate that to a parks improvement project, again, supporting the action plan's priorities. The citizen participation to close out has been vital throughout the process of the development of the action plan. We held a pre-development meeting that was done in conjunction with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting. We also held a public hearing that too was done in conjunction with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting. We had a 30-day comment period, which ended yesterday, to which we did receive a few comments that were taken into advisement. Last but not least, today at this meeting would be the final hearing as well as the adoption. Throughout the process, not only did we take the public's views or input into consideration, we also consulted with city departments, the housing authority based on the programs that we fund, as well as the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. The plan is due to HUD 45 days before our fiscal year ends, so it's due for submission August 16th. And this concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Have to make a motion to improve anything?
It was just a presentation.
I think it was
is that
just-
correct?
We are looking for a motion after
Open it
public
to the
comment.
Okay. Is anyone from the public here to comment on this item?
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Karen Shelley. I'm at 190 Durham D. I want to let you know, I attended both of the meetings of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee when this was discussed, and I really appreciate all the incredible work that staff did in creating this annual action plan. I'm familiar with the CDBG grants in other cities, and a lot of great work has gone into this. One of the things that piqued my curiosity was a provision regarding micro enterprise assistance as a component of the plan. And as I understand it, it was something that was used primarily during COVID to assist businesses, but it's not limited to that. So I would like to suggest that we increase the awareness and the support for this micro enterprise assistance component within this city, as it would definitely benefit, in my opinion, low to moderate income persons and assist in keeping businesses right here in Deerfield Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, former representative, go ahead.
Gwen Clark Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way, Deerfield. I'd just like to ask, what happened to the additional monies? Because in the draft, there stated that there was $91,411.39 that had been left over for previous years. So I wanted to know where the changes were and where did the additional monies go? Because now you're saying there's 77,000 in funds that were left from the previous years.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Close it to the public. City manager or staff, can you answer some of the questions that were asked by representative?
Yes, Mayor, have the assistant director come back up to address those questions.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Clark Reed. Just to clarify, in the draft that was put out, it did include the language that it was an estimated amount. As we went through the reconciliation process, we further deduced that the true amount was that 77,000.
Thank you. Okay. Gentlemen, looking for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Hudak. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Okay, we are now at the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for an additional minute by the mayor. This is the time for public comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. The time for public comment on an item on tonight's agenda is after the title is read in the record and the public comment period for that item is open. No comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend
If you
persons
have
of
anything to hand out, please.
ordinary sensibilities shall be permitted.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ed Murad. I'm a lawyer with Gunster. With my partner, Jack Rice, who's here with me. We represent John Castellano, who lives at 1056 Southwest 42nd Street here in Deerfield Beach. And Mr. Castellano engaged us because of his concerns about something that you have talked about, I think, once or twice before, the new asphalt plant at an abandoned site of a former asphalt plant, that it would pollute his neighborhood with noxious odors and odorless chemicals that pose dangers to his health. Now, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a physician. I can't tell you whether there are going to be any problems for anybody's health. But Mr. Rice and I have spent a lot of time looking at the land development regulations in this town and have concluded that, in our opinion, under the regulations of Deerfield Beach, that plant should never have been approved and no CO should ever be granted for it. Now, last year, the Community Appearance Board approved Ryan Asset Holdings LLC's application and described the work as an asphalt plant facility replacement. In other words, they weren't going to fix an asphalt plant, they were going to replace the asphalt plant. And that's a problem because this site at 1200 South Power Line is in Zone I, which does not allow asphalt plants. It allows manufacturing, but it does not allow asphalt plants. The only reason an asphalt plant was there in the first place was because it was a non-conforming use that existed when the LDRs were first enacted and promulgated in Deerfield Beach. Because it's a non-conforming use, it can't be replaced with a new non-conforming use. It could be repaired in place, but it could also be abandoned. And if it's abandoned, then it can't be replaced. Your LDRs define abandonment of a non-conforming use. If it is not used for 120 consecutive days, it is deemed abandoned. A lot of other cities have definitions in their codes that say have to do with the intent of the owner, whether the owner intended to abandon or not. But in this case, your LDRs say no. The definition is it's abandoned if it isn't operated for 120 days. And operated does not mean, oh, you just have the electricity plugged in. There have to be people coming in there working, doing the job. And there hasn't been anybody in there working and doing the job since January of 2023. I know I listened to one of the conversations that you had about this. I believe Commissioner Preston said he had driven by there and there wasn't any smell. And of course, there wouldn't be any smell because there was no plant there. It was torn down. The whole area was vacant and you wouldn't smell anything. After this plant gets built, now we'll know whether it smells bad or not. Now, we believe that the staff erroneously accepted.
Thank you, sir. Would you like one more minute?
If I could.
Sure.
Erroneously accepted Ryan's application to replace the existing asphalt plant, recommended approval to the Community Appearance Board. You can't go in and do everything for these people, but you are ultimately responsible for what these people do. And you have the right under section 3.13 of the city charter to safeguard the residents, to make investigations of the affairs of the city and conduct of any city department, election, or agency by a majority vote in order to safeguard your residents in the city code. What we're asking for is that you do initiate such an investigation of the procedure by which this erroneous approval of this project was permitted.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. There was a budget workshop scheduled for August 14th, which I guess has now been canceled. Whenever it is rescheduled, the handout I just gave to each of you will be relevant. It shows what the city of Delray Beach, just up the road from us, did during their recently held fiscal 2025 budget hearings. As the article says, they actually lowered their operating millage rate for the coming fiscal year by 7%. This is the 7th year in a row that the city of Delray Beach has lowered their operating millage rate. Since the city manager is so fond of bringing up other cities as examples when it suits his purpose, maybe he will try to emulate Delray Beach when doing our city's operating millage rate for the coming year. I wonder why Delray, Boca Raton, and Miami-Dade County, just to name a few cities, were able to lower their operating millage rate. Why did these cities not share our city manager's philosophy that if you lower the operating millage rate, you are going down a slippery slope? Why did these cities feel it was better for the taxpayers to decide how to spend their money instead of the city manager deciding? And before I hear the argument that the savings is only a minuscule amount to the average homesteaded homeowner, there are many citizens in Deerfield Beach that could use an extra $67 per year, especially the District 3 commissioner, who, like many of his constituents, are living on fixed incomes. I stopped by the Center for Active Aging recently and was asked by a program participant what happened to my pledge to buy the coffee for the seniors for the rest of the year. By way of a quick reminder, when I heard the city manager was imposing a $1 charge for coffee and 50 cents for a refill, I volunteered to pay for the seniors to have free coffee for the rest of the year. But city manager, I need to know the dollar amount needed so I ask publicly again for that information so I can fulfill the pledge that I made. I understand there has been an opening on the Education Advisory Board for a District 4 representative for many, many months now. Is there a problem that the District 4 commissioner would like to share with the taxpayers as to why he has not filled this empty position on the EAB? Or is it simply not important to him anymore? How about an update on the new International Fishing Pier project? There doesn't seem to be any work going on, despite the fact the city has the area in front of the Deerfield Beach Cafe closed off and barricaded for over 2 months now. I even hear all this is negatively affecting the sales of the next door restaurant. May I have another 30 seconds? Okay. I even hear all this is negatively affecting the sales of the next door restaurant, Ocean 234. Oh, and finally, if the city is waiting for Tula Amana to run out of money and be forced to drop her federal case, I can assure you that that will not happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Linda Ruiz, Ruise. I live at 425 Northwest First Terrace, the Palms Apartments in Deerfield Beach, Florida. I have 2 questions, issues. One is at the Palms Apartments of Deerfield Beach. Why is there a hot plate and a pot being put in the community room as, I guess, a potpourri or smell or something? That's a safety issue from what I can see on the table every morning to make sure that the community room is not smelling, which was an issue that they had before, was supposed to have been cleaned up. Maybe you guys can find out the answer for me because I don't see one. Secondly of all, as far as Mr. Hurst mentioning about the coffee at the Breakaway Center, Northeast Focal Point for Active Aging, why do the seniors have to pay for coffee and 50 cents for a refill? You can get a refill for coffee if you go to a restaurant. At the end of the morning, they wind up throwing the coffee away. But basically, why do seniors have to pay for a cup of coffee? I hope you guys can find out that answer for me, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Chris Clues. I live in the Cove neighborhood off of Southeast 8th Court and 15th Avenue. I'm here to talk about the 4th of July. So we were all excited because we had a great fireworks show. The morning of the 5th, though, our beach, Deerfield Beach, was an absolute disaster. The trash and garbage that was left on the beach, 1,800 pounds of garbage was picked up by volunteers. And I want to give a shout out to the Deerfield sanitation workers because they did a great job that night, but they can only do so much at night. So the tide definitely took some of that garbage away. Why are we allowing that to happen on our beach? There's got to be a better way to do our fireworks. It's sea turtle nesting season. That's a federal offense, I think, to disrupt a sea turtle nest. There's no way with thousands of people on the beach that the sea turtles weren't disrupted as well. But the bigger issue is thousands of pounds of garbage on our beach. People come to our beach to enjoy it, and they leave their stuff everywhere. It was all over the place. And I'm disappointed that I didn't see any of you out there. Maybe I missed you coming out to help volunteer. I know we're all human. We don't expect you to be at everything. I mean, you can't be everywhere, but you do represent Deerfield Beach. It has beach in the name. And I think to be out there helping us clean up that garbage, the Surfrider Foundation did a great job. Island Water Sports participated. This is unacceptable in a beach neighborhood to allow people to come and destroy our beach. And as a dog owner, it frustrates me because I would love to have a little dog beach somewhere in the corner of Deerfield Beach, but we've been told that dogs are dirty and they make a mess. And the mess is made by the humans. Because I can tell you, I picked up styrofoam coolers, beer bottles, plastic bottles, garbage bags, beer cans. My dog wouldn't leave any of that stuff. Now, he might poop in the beach, but I'm going to pick it up. And I got news for you. When you lay down on the beach, animals have pooped there. When you go into the ocean, they poop in the ocean. So poop is around all over the beach. I don't want to make this 3 minutes about poop, but the bottom line is the reason that we've been told we can't have a little dog beach is because the dogs are a mess. And I'm here to tell you that the dogs do nothing to the beach compared to what we do as humans. And there are alternatives for us rather than having thousands of people on the beach for the 4th of July. I know it's beautiful to see the fireworks over the ocean, but we got to start thinking about what Marty said is, we have the best beach in Broward County. He said that while he was here. We do have one of the best beaches in Broward County. Let's keep it that way and not allow people to come and destroy it and then just leave their garbage everywhere. It was really, really disappointing. It was sad. It was shameless, and it should not be happening in a beach neighborhood. So at the end of the day, I'm looking, I have like 15 more seconds. So if I could get like another 30 seconds or so.
Sure.
All right, cool. So at the end of the day, really, this starts with all of us in the room. We're the ones that can make a difference. All of you can make the change for us, but we have to speak loud enough for it to make a difference on that 4th of July. There are better ways to do this than to have that garbage all over our beach, because you cannot get all of it. There's absolutely no way. So as I walk away from this podium tonight, I ask 2 things from you. One is it possible to make a change for the 4th of July? And how do we make that happen? I understand there are businesses on the beach that make money from the 4th of July, and I don't want to disrupt that. But is there a way to do a better way to do it? Does everybody have to be on the beach for the fireworks? Can we find something better to do? Or can we make enforcement a little stronger on the beach when people just throw their garbage on it during the 4th of July? And the second is, how do we get a small sliver of the beach for a dog beach? What would I need to do? What would I need to present to make that happen? I know there's a way that we can do this. Pretty much every beach has it. And we have a lot of dogs in Deerfield Beach, a lot of dog owners who love their dogs and would love to take them to the beach. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Karen Shelley, 190 Durham D. I just want to echo everything the last speaker just said. Love the idea about a dog beach. I do want to ask about drones for next 4th of July since it came up. And also, it made me think when he was speaking that maybe what we can do is have a community event the day after the 4th of July where we all go to the beach, we all clean it up, and we take part in doing that together. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Willie Rosetta Graham Bracy. I live at 501 Northwest First Terrace in Deerfield. The reason why I'm up here, I wanted to ask a question. At the Northeast Focal Point, when the senior citizens go in the bathrooms, I don't see a string on the wall. If they fall in there, that they can pull to let somebody know that they are in there, because the bathroom doors are locked. And if nobody don't see you, they don't know where you are sometimes. And then also all of the doors got like man, women on them. And the one that has the urinals in it, they should have it blocked off to let us know that, that's the men's bathroom. Because when the ladies go in there sometime, and ladies will just might sit on the commode and then it sits in urine. And it happens a lot of times. So I think they should block the lady off the men's bathroom where they got the urinal at, and just let it say the man up there instead of the man and the woman on there. Because they got y'all know what I'm talking about. They got the man and the lady on there. So if they got a urinal in it, they should just leave the man up there and put something over the lady. And also, I was scared to go home last week when the little boy had the accident, because when I came home from the senior citizen place, I didn't know what was happening. I got ready to get out my car. Crime tape was tied under my living room window, running out toward the road. So I got back in my car and went down there. And I asked them, should I be afraid to go in my house? So if they're going to do something like that, they should make sure they have the right house.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
There's something that's on the.
Well, I'm sorry. Come on up.
That's on the agenda last, but it's, I don't know how it's important, but my name is Sherry Ring. I don't live in the city of Deerfield Beach.
I need your address for the record.
2231 Northeast 33rd Street, Lighthouse Point. My husband is Joe Ring. He is a retired Broward Sheriff's Deputy. He served the city of Deerfield Beach for 32 and a half years. He was,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. I think she's referring to item 16
Yeah.
for when
Yeah.
we get to it. So generally, we have
You
the
can
public
talk-
comment for
and what
that
the
item.
tolling means or what all that is, but.
Well, when we get to that item,
Okay.
you can come up and talk.
Okay,
We'll-
that's what I wanted to make sure of. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, ma'am.
It's item 16.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Roger Freitag, 418 Southeast Second Street, Deerfield Beach, Florida. With regards to July 4th, I was wondering if the city would consider perhaps producing signage in multiple languages to let the visitors know who are coming to the event. That would be in their best interest and in the city's best interest to keep our city clean. And maybe that could be our campaign. I'm not sure if District 1 Commissioner would back that, but I think all the commissioners would agree that this might be a really great idea. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Carrie? Carrie, we have your name and address for the record, please. Carrie? Okay, we're going to move on then. Anyone else? We'll close it to the public then.
Hello?
Oh, yes. Carrie, is that you?
Hi, yes, I'm sorry. I was having a problem with my phone. Sorry
Okay,
about
just
that.
Name and
Yes.
address for the record, please.
Carrie Hellenbrecht, 884 Northwest 47th Street, Deerfield. I would like to add something to the gentleman who was speaking regarding the beach. I walk that beach about 4 times a week, and even in the middle of the summer, which is our slow time, all the garbage cans are overflowing. So once season gets back here, the trash is there every morning. I mean, the guys do a great job cleaning up, but there's not enough garbage cans to go around now as it is. So certainly on a holiday it would be overwhelming. Excuse me. Also regarding the beach, I'm sure everybody saw that out in California, another person was covered in sand digging holes in the beach. We all know what happened at Lauderdale by the sea. We have no kind of signs. I looked it up. We don't have a law that says you can't dig holes. So I don't know if we could consider passing a law for that, or if we could at least have signage saying something to the effect of, like, for your safety and the safety of our wildlife, please no digging holes deeper than like a foot or 2 feet. So it's giving people knowledge that, you know, kids shouldn't be digging the holes, or sometimes adults, and also would help protect our sea turtles, which I think is really important. A couple months ago, I had brought up a question about having hometown heroes banners hung on the light poles. We have like Christmas, Valentine's Day, whatever. We have all those little signs, and I'd like to see our men and women that serve in the military honored. I've sent you guys pictures of what other cities do, and at the time, the mayor, I believe, said he thought it was a good idea, and I hadn't heard any standing on that since then. Those are my only items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Couple things. Ms. Reese, is when it comes to the Palms, that's the Deerfield Beach Housing Authority. Have you spoken to them and asked why they're allowing that to happen?
There's no explanation.
Okay. So thanks for bringing it to our attention. We'll talk to them, but it should be, if you've directed already to the Housing Authority, they haven't given you a proper answer. We'll see if we can try to get an answer from them. They are the ones that, as you know, run the place. I'm sure that Ms. Amana's creditors will be happy to hear that she's not going to run out of money anytime soon. That should be interesting. Mr. Clues, like the 4th of July, absolutely, it is a disgrace the way it ends up looking. And I don't think the solution necessarily putting up signage. I don't care what language you speak. You should know that you pick up after yourself. Dogs don't pick up. If people can't pick up their own trash, they're certainly not going to clean up after their own dog. And that becomes a problem because unfortunately the dogs would probably bury it when the people will just leave it. If we could get the dogs to run the beach, we might be in better shape. The biggest problem we have is getting enforcement when you have that many people that come to our area. We've got the equivalent of the entire population of our city over on the beach when we have these events, especially the 4th of July. We have, I'm going to disagree with you, we have the best beach in Broward County. I'll agree with Marty, I'll disagree with you. But the issue is that there's only so many people we can have out there for enforcement, and safety issues, traffic issues, all of those things end up taking a higher precedent than it comes to cleaning up the trash and getting people enforcement on that. Because it is something that I've talked to the city manager about, that not happy about seeing what that is. And if we have all these police down there, why can't we do something as far as getting enforcement on the way the trash is put out? It's abhorrent the way people think they can treat our beach and just leave it after that. The fact that Surfrider and the volunteers that come out there for that event the next day to do that, and our staff tries everything they can to keep up with it, but it is an overwhelming task. And I'm not sure what the solution is, and I'm not sure if you have a solution or an idea, but if you do, let us know. So if we have some ideas on what we can do while that's going on. As far as relocating it, we've talked about that in the past. We talked about moving it out to the county park, Quiet Waters Park out west, because that also would give some of our residents out there the opportunity to view the fireworks. And I know that is controversial because a lot of people love the fact that it is at our beach and that's where they want it. But there's a lot of things that we can look at to consider. It becomes a problem with trying to evacuate all of the, when I say evacuate, but disperse all of those people on the beach, that number. To do that, it takes a lot of man and women power to be able to do that. So that's a big drain on our resources to make sure that occurs. And that does end up taking a precedent over chasing after people, making sure they pick up their coolers and things like that. But the condition of the beach is absolutely embarrassing. And people who come visit our beach should be embarrassed that it's in that condition. So there's got to be some kind of program or some kind of outreach that we can do to maybe address that. But it's something we need to put our thinking caps on and figure out how to solve that, because that cannot continue. And I'm happy to discuss it with you at a later date. If you want to call me, give me a call. You can call me. Yeah, my cell phone's on the website. Yeah, definitely give us a call. You can give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever you like to do, so we can get that information out there. And I know we've talked about a drone show, and I think there's pros and cons of that, but that's something that can be looked into in the future. I have no doubt. Dog Beach is not as simple as what people think. It's the access to be able to get to it. You have to have it in a certain spot. And I don't think as many beaches have them as what people are saying that they are, but I think it's problematic for us. Emergency strings in the senior bathrooms over at the Braithwaite Center is a good idea. I'm not sure if we have them or we don't, but I don't know if I'm on the same page with you as far as making a unisex bathroom only for one people. I don't quite agree with that. Signage becomes problematic in this way. It's good to put out signs. I think we should put out some signs. And as far as people digging holes and things like that, I thought we had something in the books that prevented people from doing that. But if we don't, I mean, I think it's probably good to do. But you end up getting sign pollution. So by the time you put in digging holes and trying to get people out to litter, I don't think it's sign. If you don't have enough common sense to know you need to pick up your own trash, sign ain't going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. I mean, I can't regulate stupidity or classlessness. Sign can't fix that. But as far as the hometown hero banners, we actually just talked about that recently. I know that's something that staff's looking into for the upcoming budget, and we're looking to do that. And that's, I believe, all I have that addresses everything there. Okay. Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. The gentleman that made the comments about the beach, that's a valid concern, sir, and it's something that we need to definitely take a look at. But I would just say that whatever ideas that come up, it should include our local high school, because a lot of those kids need service hours, and a day after the 4th of July, is something that maybe the school can get certain volunteers as well as from the community to come out and pick garbage up. So just something that you should think about the school and how they might be involved in a project like that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, we were currently on the consent agenda. Items 4 through 12 are currently on consent.
Okay. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on item 4 through 12? One person. Anyone else? Anyone online? Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public. Mr. Hers.
This is item number 10, Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. I hope it didn't change the numbers. This is about the game time. So as long as that's the same one. There are so many things wrong with this $542,000 purchase from Game Time. Let me start with the city's purchasing department again using a piggyback contract to award a $542,000 contract. How many times has the commission told the city manager to avoid using piggyback contracts unless it is absolutely necessary? I didn't realize purchasing playground equipment was so time sensitive. Also, how can the taxpayers ever know if they are getting the best deal possible on large purchases unless there is competitive bidding? This is economics 101, and I can't understand why the city manager does not understand this. Another alarming item is the $542,000 expenditure exceeding budget by 20%. No matter how the city manager tries to spin this, if you are over budget by $92,000 here, somewhere else will not have that $92,000 that they were counting on. Finally, in the backup, we were given over 500 pages of Game Time's complete product list. But when it came time to give a breakdown of the $101,000 installation cost, the taxpayers received nothing. So I urge the commission to fulfill your fiduciary responsibilities to the taxpayers and put this purchase out for bid. Or at the very least, have the Parks and Rec Department provide the documentation to the taxpayers that led them to conclude that the quote from Game Time utilizing the Omnia contract pricing was the best proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? No? We can close it to the public. Mr. Santucci, do you want to address that?
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to have the Director of Parks and Recreation come up and talk a little bit about procurement of playgrounds and some of the work that they did to make the selection of Game Time, as well as the costs involved. And I think what we'll also do is show you some renderings. There's quite a bit of community input that went along with this as well, so we'll touch on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission. For the record, Greg Warner, Director of Parks and Recreation. And with this, and just to give you a little history as far as playground manufacturers go and tradition with purchasing with playground, every playground manufacturer has a cooperative contract or a state contract for their pricing. This one was a little bit different with a traditional piggyback because we did contact more than one firm for proposals as well as pricing. So when we also, as the city manager said, we went out for public input to see what the residents wanted. We brought a proposal from one of the companies out there to the residents, and they wanted some different things, that type of thing. So we did contact the second proposer. This did come back over the $450,000 prescribed budget, but we felt that the product that we're getting for a community park that serves many neighborhoods on the western side of Deerfield was worth the funding. And I will go through some of the conceptuals. For you to take a look at. And one of the things we had a community meeting out at the Villages Park. We had about 25 residents, parents, and children in attendance at that meeting. They told us what we wanted. The original proposal we brought out there didn't include some of the things that the residents wanted. They wanted some more climbing apparatuses. They wanted something for the older kids, for the 7 to 12-year-old age group. And they wanted a spinner, those types of things in this playground. And again, this community park is a great location to service the residents on the west side. So you see, this is one component that is included in this proposal and provides a lot of climbing apparatuses. This will serve children from 2 years old to 12 years old with the way that's set up for that. I'm not getting it to go forward. Oh, there we go. So this was a different angle on that same concept, that same portion of the playground. And again, another angle. So a substantial piece that will serve the residents out there. And if you're ever out at that park is heavily utilized by the residents and the families. This is the component that was added in to serve the older children. So they wanted some larger slides. They wanted some larger pieces that that would keep the older kids entertained. So we were able to work with the game time representative to place this in the location that the current playground is in. And we talk about parks, we talk about amenities within parks, and I see the playground being the skin and bones of a park. That's what attracts the families, because their kids can be entertained and play and help with the physical activity of the kids. So that's another angle of that portion. Flipping through, and then you also have the swings, and you have a swing that's a parent-child swing as well, where the toddler sits on one side, the parent sits facing, a very popular item. And here is the area for the younger kids. This would serve the ages of 2 to 5 years old. So this playground does include something for all children to play. And as I said, we did get proposals from 2 different companies for this. So we didn't do the traditional way, just go with one manufacturer, go off that piggyback contract and not compare what we could get from both companies.
You did take a look at what was out there in the existing market compared to the piggyback contract?
Correct. Okay. And also this photo does show.
So it was determined that the piggyback contract was the cheaper way to go.
It is. And I'll use a comparison. The Oviedo McKeithen playground, the new playground that was just placed in Oviedo McKeithen, was put out to bid. And that playground, which I feel component wise is probably a little bit less than this, was more expensive than this product. It was closer to a $600,000 purchase for that playground.
Thank you.
And it's also universally accessible. I just wanted to put that in there as well.
Thank you. The other question, so it's 92,000 over the original budget. Where's that money going to come from on
that money? There was a project that we had, or the city had prior to me coming. And since we don't have a master plan for the Johnny McKeithen Park, there was funding that was released from any development in Johnny McKeithen. So we are hoping to get a plan for Johnny McKeithen during the master plan process this coming year. So that funding was freed up from that project.
Okay, shifted it over.
Yes.
Thank you. Villages of Hillsborough Park is a tremendous park that we have out west, and there hasn't been any improvements over there in probably close to a decade, other
Right.
than changing it to some of the pavilions. So this is long overdue and
Yes.
much needed. It's nice to see actually the west side of the city get some improvements over there. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will say this, there seems to be a mentality that people think that when they don't want us to spend money on things, when the residents come out and say they want certain things, that's going to cost money. People might not like that because if it was up to them, they wouldn't spend the money on it. Well, how do we give you can't say that, Well, you don't listen to the residents. Well, the residents came out, said what they wanted to do. It's going to cost more money, and that's what you spend the money on. It's that simple. So just because you might not want to do that, or you've never been to that park and you have no idea, or never raised any kids over in that area, you know how important that, anybody who's been over there know how important that is. Same complaint we got when we expanded the Tigner Center. We went from 1-story to 2-story because the residents wanted it. And that's what we did, and that costs more money. So that's giving the residents what they want. It's just not giving every resident or certain residents what they want, which is to try to not spend money and keep things on the cheap. And it's kind of hard to do that when you have the majority of people want something different than what certain people want. So thank you for that. And also, I appreciate the fact, and I hope people realize that the job of procurement is to find the least expensive way to go. And sometimes, yes, we don't like piggyback contracts when it's being done at certain times in the marketplace. I've been here long enough to remember when people were desperate for work out there and were using an existing contract that went back to the 2000s. And you're like, well, right then that market was high. You're probably paying a lot more. And we went out to bid and we were able to save money. But if you see the accelerating costs now, we learned that when we tried to do our lifeguard stance. We said, it's too expensive. Let's wait a year. Forget it. Let's wait till the prices came down. Guess what? They went up. So there's a reason that it's all about the time and the economy and what's happening in the marketplace of when you use a piggyback contract to your advantage or you're using it and it's hurting you. And I think at this time, it's nice to know that staff is taking a look at that and making sure that a piggyback contract is the best way to go before we, because if you go out to marketplace and you break the existing contract, you don't use one, you miss an opportunity. You might end up getting in prices that you don't want, and it puts you in a position that you don't want to be in. So I think it's, I appreciate the fact that staff looks at that, and that's quite frankly what I expect them to do. Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really glad that this presentation was put on because I was going to pull this item because there were some calls that I received about this and the project up on Federal Highway. Some of the residents were very concerned and said things similar about the money being spent, of which I invited them to come to this city commission meeting and so that they can get clarity on it, of which the people that I spoke to, I noticed that not anybody showed up. And so, you get these emails where people are saying that they're very concerned about money being spent and they're willing to have an individual conversation, but not willing to come and ask and get the answers from the commission itself. So I'm glad this presentation was put on. I hope for those people that were concerned that this provides a measure of clarity because I had planned to pull this. So I too think that this was good for information, and I thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the community meeting at the Villages of Hillsborough Park. I was there, and if I recall, I think Commissioner Preston, you came as well. And Director Warner said there was 25 people out there. I think that's a low number. I think there were more people that were out there that were engaged in the process. And they had billboards of what all that equipment would look like set up at the pavilion, and the residents were extremely clear. And there was a very good cross-section of families that were there. There were young families that were new to Deerfield Beach, and there were families that had been there a long time. And the residents' comments were extremely clear that night that they wanted more apparatus to that park to satisfy all the different age groups of the children that would come there, not just young kids or not just old kids, but a combination of the two. And the comments were directed back to staff, Mr. Warner and his team, and they went back and they redeveloped the plan based upon the comments of the residents. So when you ever say, my government doesn't work for me, that is totally false, because this is exactly what happened at that meeting. Those residents were very clear what they wanted to see at that park. Mr. Warner and his team went back and redeveloped the concept based upon those comments. And as a result, you have a park which is more expensive because it's more apparatus there than that the residents wanted. So this is the government responding to exactly what the people wanted. The funding is there for it, and this is the commission responding to those needs.
Thank you. Okay, looking for a motion on. Do you have any polls? Do you have any polls? You don't have any polls? Okay. Looking for a motion to items 4 through 12?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Hudak. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
yes,
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 13 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, adopting the amended Parks and Recreation Schedule of Fees and Charges, providing for conflicts and an effective date.
So Mayor, I'll go ahead and just recap a little bit. This item came before you previously, and the dais was pretty unanimous in some of the changes that they would like to see. So we brought that back and talked about it with staff. We've made those edits for you. So we won't give you the complete presentation, but a shorter version that shows you the changes that we made, and we'll go from there. Mr. Warner's here to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission. For the record, Greg Warner, Director of Parks and Recreation. And as the managers had said, when we brought this to you at the July 9th commission meeting, there were some comments from the dais about some revisions that you wanted to see. So I have a short presentation that will talk about some of those revisions. And we talked about some of the community centers that we have and the usage of those centers for meetings for our homeowners associations based in Deerfield Beach. And we came back and we have made an adjustment that there will be a no charge for the HOAs to utilize meeting space within our centers. So the other information, just pricing comparisons for the general pricing for the rental of those facilities. And one of the other comments was about our signature picnic shelters, and that would include the Kurt Cottrell Pavilion as well as the Sullivan Park shelter, and that our fees were probably on the low end for non-residents. And so we've adjusted the Kurt Cottrell Pavilion to an updated fee with a deposit of $250. And Sullivan Park fee, we updated the non-resident fee to a $300 non-resident rental fee for that. We had proposed at the time for both the resident and the non-resident fee to be $175. So we upped that non-resident fee adjustment there. And talking about the pier and admission onto the pier, and the commission agreed that the daily fee to get onto the pier should remain the same. And what we did was we matched the resident and the non-resident daily fee so that they're the same cost, and that will help with staff efficiency and getting people onto the pier more efficiently rather than. And we talked about that daily fee, people may not be carrying their identification to identify a non-resident. So what we looked at and adjusted was the memberships. So the monthly fishing fee, where we had a $50 non-resident fee, we bumped that up to $63 for a non-resident for a monthly fishing pass to get onto the pier. And with the monthly sightseeing, we bumped up from the $10 to $13 for a non-resident, so that the non-residents are paying more for that than the residents. We talked about the revenues from the pier at just under $335,000. And we see approximately about 166,000 visitors annually onto the pier. So at this point, I will take any questions that you may have or any comments on the revisions or the general fee schedule.
Thank you, Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you. We had also discussed the monthly and annual fees for the aquatic center and the tennis center. What were we able to do with
Okay.
that?
I do, Heather, if you could pull that up one more time, please. We did make some adjustments to that.
Thank you.
Let me run through just to give you a visual of what we looked at. And so looking at the aquatics fees, those we did increase where most of these fees, what we had proposed was the same fee for resident and non-resident. And we had some operational thoughts on that as to why we did that. But the commission expressed that we need to have that differentiation between the resident and the non-resident. So we did bump the non-resident fees up. And what we did was a standardized $10 per fee increase for non-residents. And just to give you a little synopsis as to operationally what we think about both the aquatic center, and then we'll cover the tennis center as well, are facilities that we're not operating at capacity. So at no time would a resident come there and not be able to get in because there's too many non-residents in there. So to encourage the use and to gain the revenue and make those facilities sustainable, we do want the non-residents to attend as well. So, but we understand that there should be a difference between the taxpayers and the non-taxpayers. So we bumped up those fees. And that includes the 3-month membership, the annual memberships, and then the pool party rentals and those types of things. And same thing with the tennis center, same idea with the facility. We don't operate at capacity. And I think the presence of the non-residents allows the residents to enjoy that facility as well. But we did bump up those fees on the annual, individual, family, and junior, and then the semi-annual individual and semi-annual junior permits.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who care to comment on this item? Anyone online, Heather? I'm going to close it to the public. One thing I will say, and one thing that was omitted that was brought up about how Delray is looking to lower their tax rate. One of the things that they're looking to do to make up for that tax rate, because you can't have your cake and eat it too, as the article says, is they're proposing $35 for non-residents to park at their beach. Talk to the businesses in Deerfield Beach, over in the beach area, if we started doing that to make up for a decrease. Of course, they also, and I'm bringing that up because we're talking about fees here, that is, one of the things that they're looking to do to make up for that lost revenue. So there is a price for when you reduce things. I'm glad to see we're not doing that, but we're making it fair to our residents compared to our non-residents here. So I do like the logic, and I appreciate you making the changes that were suggested. So thank you for that. Thank you for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hudak, seconded by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 14 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving a work authorization with WGI Inc. to provide professional planning services related to the Central City Rezoning Study Project in an amount not to exceed $48,634, providing for execution and an effective date.
So Mayor, just real quick before Mr. Power gets into this item, I do want to point out that this particular item and the one following it are related to the same effort. They are different components of that effort, but they are all related to the work to be done on Dixie Highway.
And let me go ahead and read item number 15, because I believe staff plans on presenting these two items together. We will need separate votes on each item. Item number 15 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the award of request for proposals number 24-20-VP to LM Genuine Solutions, LLC, for community outreach and collaboration services related to the Central City Area Dixie Highway rezoning project, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the top-ranked responsive and responsible proposer, LM Genuine Solutions LLC, in an amount not to exceed $60,000, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Thank you. Eric Power, Director of Planning and Development Services, City of Deerfield Beach. So as you just heard, I am going to speak to you tonight about the next two items, which of course do require two separate votes, but they are related. And I felt it was important for me to discuss both of them. First, I want to say that both these items are in conjunction with my department, Planning and Development Services, and Department of Economic Opportunity. We work together, especially when it comes to such a large project, which you're all familiar with. For multiple years, we have been working on how to do improvements to the Central City Corridor, Dixie Highway and the surrounding areas. Back in 2020, we had ULI come, did a very extensive research on this corridor, and then they came back in 2022. We did some work related to the Pioneer Grove side of it. If you recall, it's all interrelated. And we have worked internally to determine what is the best way to try to bring the ULI the examples that ULI believes that we should be incorporating into our code to the city of Deerfield, to the residents, so that they fully understand what we are proposing to do, and so that any suggestions, comments, issues, concerns are completely vetted. So I'm going to go backwards here. Item 15 is the outreach. And this is a very holistic, inclusive process in which we are, using a outreach coordinator, using all four languages that are very common in the city of Deerfield Beach: English, Spanish, Creole, and Portuguese. Having small meetings, larger meetings, to try to get as much outreach and input as possible for all the residents, taking these meetings to places maybe we never even been before, as far as not just in our normal places like HTC or here, like going to some churches, going other places where we can try to get some more outreach. It's a large, intensive process that we're looking to do. The next piece of that, which was item 14, is to use a consultant that we have on our CCNA agreement, WGI, to help us with the implementation of some of these code changes, land use amendments, maps and drawings, things of that nature, that we need them to be a part of. And the thing that makes these together is that our contract WGI requires them to be a part of these outreach meetings. So they're there listening to it too. They're there incorporating these conversations as well. And so they are related, even though they are two separate contracts. But really what it's doing is it's creating that, again, holistic outreach that we were trying to do, so we can come back to the commission later and say, we believe we want to make these particular amendments to the code, and that, everyone's voices have been heard and we have as much input as we possibly can get. So those are the two items. I haven't answered any questions.
Commissioner Hudak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To me, one of the key points to the ULI study was the distrust between the residents and the city. And one of the things that they recommended was some kind of a residential committee that does the outreach. It's not just us reaching out to people, but it's people in the community who have these properties, who are looking to develop it. Also, part of that process, because the biggest obstacle seems to be the lack of trust in the residents that own those properties and the city. So what are we doing to make sure that we get, the residents themselves on board and that they're part of this outreach process?
Right. So the city does need stakeholders and champions, right, who are residents, whether they're business owners or residents in the city, who are interested in moving some of these items forward, right? So we do need that. That is part of our outreach program, in utilization of the consultant, to try to create those contacts with us and try to incorporate them into the meetings to ensure that they're part of the meetings, and that, again, we're reaching out to maybe in ways that we haven't been able to reach out before. We can only do so much. We can send letters, We can do social media. We could talk about it at a commission meeting. Not everyone attends a commission meeting. Not everyone, finds it as fascinating as I did to be here, right? So we don't always get that same outreach. So that's why we need to try some different venues, whether it's just knocking on doors, going to churches, going to people's houses. Like that's what we need to try to do.
Commissioner Preston?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just particularly happy that there are serious conversations going on about what's going to happen in the central city corridor. This to me is basically a first move to actually have serious conversation from which can come plans, and then obviously seeing some kind of solution to the issues that we've talked about for years and years and years. And so I don't know that, and I think I appreciate what you're saying, because that's where the issues have been. And the fact that we're looking at, suggestions from the ULI tells me that we are ready to go in a very positive direction beyond conversation. So I think that in the end, it may take a while, but we can have those meaningful conversations from which there can be plans developed. So I think this is a good idea. I've talked with Eric and I've told him if there's something that I can do, with outreach in the community to get the community more involved, that I'm willing to do that. And I think that this is good.
Thank you. I believe with this, look, the Urban Land Institute comes in, ULI comes in and gives us some ideas. Here's some ideas of what you could possibly do here. None of it's set in stone. We don't have that set that we want, there's nothing set that we want to do for sure. There's some ideas. From there, we should go out to the public, take public input, and flesh all these ideas out with the public to figure out what they want and how do we come about doing that. Then we take that public input, you put that into the planning and how to do it. And then quite frankly, I think you need to bounce it back a little bit back towards the ULI. Say, look, this is what we're looking to do based on public input. Does this work? Does this not work based on your expertise in looking at these things? Does this make sense? And if we need to tweak it, move it from there, that's what we need to do. And I would imagine that's what this is what we start to do here. This is the first steps of being able to start to do that.
Correct.
So before anybody starts running around and spreading misinformation, this is simply just the steps of trying to figure out how to plan this and to take the public input and put it into play and coming up with an overall plan.
Correct.
We've got some ideas from experts. We want to hear from everybody to figure out what they want, and we try to put that into the planning, then we move forward. So this is our first step. Thank you.
Correct.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone from the public that would care to comment on this item 14 or 15? 14 and 15.
Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. I'm not quite sure why we are spending money here, since each commissioner other than Commissioner Parnas has made it very clear what they wanted already. On April 5th, exactly 4 months ago, during a Zoom presentation open to the public, the following comments were made by Commissioners Hudak and Drosky. I would have included everybody's comments, but I would run out of time. Commissioner Hudak said, I know the challenges that we face along Dixie Highway, but we don't have those challenges, over by Pioneer Park and by City Hall. So I'm really frustrated that we're still at the concept stage. I keep hearing your master plan, but it seems like we're still at the concept stage. So we really need to get past the concept stage and let's get to the design stage. But I think the time for talk and design is over. We really need to start moving forward. Commissioner Drosky said the following. I will start by saying I share the same frustrations that Commissioner Hudak and Commissioner Preston do as well. This has been going on way, way too long. In my opinion, when I was reelected in 2021, I said then that we needed to take advantage of P3 opportunities and that we had pieces to participate. So 3 years later, and we're no further along, and we're just having the discussions now. We could have had these discussions for the last 3 years because the developers, like it or not, they're the ones that are going to drive this train. You know, they're the ones that are going to build it. We're not going to build it. We have the land available. So it's going to take a relationship with the builders to figure out what do they want. You know, in all of this, builders want land. And the good news is we have land to offer. Do you know what a deal looks like? We need to start those negotiations, or at least to find out conceptually what developers want. How much land do they want? What kind of financial arrangement? What do they want in exchange? The town center concept is definitely the way to go. I'm 100% on board. That's the way that most cities are going. So this can be done. It needs to be done. And we have the assets to actually hold the leverage, you know, in part of it. So I think this needs to move forward yesterday.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tula Monarch, 5030 Southwest, 109th Avenue, Davie. I'm here today, actually. This is a very nice, interesting discussion of what you're going to do with downtown, but I do believe that it should start with the leaders. And I was very saddened to see that one of the people that I favored the most, even though you guys may not think so, is actually City Manager Santucci. In the decade plus that he actually worked for the city, he did a lot of great things, and I had hoped that he would stay with the city and correct the things. Sometimes when we come here and we talk about the issues of what you're going to be building and how and who's going to be deciding that, who better than the one that has devoted so much of a big chunk of his time to do it? So I hate to see him go. I heard the announcement, and I think it's
Can
a
you
big
stick to the
loss.
subject matter, ma'am?
Yes. In regards of who's going to be in charge to get this project and everything done, in every city, I see the city manager driving it, along with the best and most caring people that live there, that work there, that have devoted their time there, not the ones that pass and go. And I do think that WGI, you chose that. It's a great company. It builds mostly parking lots by 90%. And you want to put somebody in charge of a residence committee who's actually a real estate agent working with developers. But who better than the leaders of the city that have been here for all this time to communicate with these brilliant people that have actually built all the other projects? So I just wish that someday we're going to see City Manager Santucci, and he's going to drive your development like Charlie Dodge did, for example, great city manager, Pembroke Pines. They loved him so much, they gave his name to the amphitheater, which every city needs. So I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a difference in how you run things. Like when somebody corrects something, we don't want to shoot people down. We want to correct. Bring it back to life. Bring everybody interested. Make the city interested back again in what is happening and contribute positively, not shoot them all down. Thank you so much. I hate to see you, sir, even though you may not know how much I appreciate the good things you've done all these years.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, former rep, go ahead.
Yes, Gwen Clark, Reed, 1430 Southwest 6th Way. Well, I think we're going around in circles as far as this whole issue is concerned. We started with the Institute, and we've had now, I don't know how many of these meetings with people who were interested in what should happen in the central city. We've discussed over and over. There has been a committee developed along that Dixie corridor. That committee, I don't know what happened. They have been meeting, and I thought they were in contact with the city. I just think that we are spending money with a company at this time that we don't need to be spending. You need to be hearing still from those residents or from that group. I think it was called the Dang Group or something like that. But you need to continue to go back and see what happened, and so that we're not making the same mistakes again, because this seems like a wheel just going round and round in a circle and nothing coming to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Freitag?
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast Second Street. I had some questions regarding the scope of work itself. For example, 3.2B.1, where it's saying the building new regulations, what is gentle density trough missing middle housing typologies? If somebody could please give me a definition to that phrase, I would like to understand that. Again, gentle density trough missing middle housing typologies. Also in point 3 of that same listing, what type of density bonuses would be considered? I know that we're early on in this process and we're just giving this information to WGI as to the scope that we're expecting back from them, but what type of bonus density bonuses would be considered? Would that be going beyond the R25? What would that be entail for anybody wanting to put residents in that area? Also part of the scope says they are to meet with only up to 28 stakeholders consulted. I think only 28 stakeholders leaves a lot of room for error. There should be a lot more than just 28 stakeholders. And do the stakeholders, are they considered just individuals that own property, or is it developers? Who else within the city would be considered a stakeholder that would have the wherewithal to meet with WGI to share their input? So those are kind of my just basic general questions moving into the scope with WGI. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to close it to the public. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Power, if you can address some of it, Mr. Santucci.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and just do a big recap. We talked about the scope of work. I'll leave that to Mr. Power to do. But, we talk about conceptual of what the Disney business corridor should look like from a zoning perspective. That did come from the ULI. And then they kind of gave us a formula or a recipe, if you will, of how to approach that. And that's what this is. These are those components. So this is taking concept and putting it into action. One of those actions was the communication strategy, which Commissioner Preston talked about. And then the other component of that is the actual design of what those land use changes, zoning changes will look like. The one piece that hasn't been talked about tonight, which has already been done, was the retail strategy by Coyers International, right? So when you talk about what do developers want to see, what will work in that area, that component's already been researched. And so you've kind of got a trifecta, if you will, of the communication strategy. What does development want? What do these residents and business owners want? And then how do we meet somewhere in the middle to have like I said, a formula that will be successful. So just a little background on that. I know it's not the easiest thing to kind of understand all the components if they're not laid out in front of you. So apologize for that. But the retail strategy work, what does, the development community, what will work here for what will make sense has already kind of been done. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Power to explain maybe a little bit about the scope.
Thank you. Just to answer this particular questions in relation to the stakeholders, as actually Commissioner Hudak mentioned, we are looking for stakeholders and champions, people who can be a part of the community and be a part of the message. That's what that number is actually referring to. So 28 is actually pretty high. Then we think it's not just residents, it's people that we think can also be invested in the project. So regarding zoning, I don't know if everyone recognizes that the Dixie Business Residential does not actually encompass the entirety of the west side of Dixie Highway. We have B1, we also have County B3, and we have a couple other things that are mixed in there. So whether or not we actually want to rezone the entirety of that road to one similar zoning, or we break it up into certain ways, those are questions that need to be discussed and addressed. We do not have any suggestion related to the density bonuses. That would be a discussion and a conversation. I don't think at this point in time we can even suggest what those might be. And then related to what is the missing middle housing, missing middle housing is, I think in today's world, a little bit of a catchphrase, but really what we're talking about in the process of attainable housing is in a traditional, format. You would you'd go out of college, maybe you get like an apartment, you get married, maybe you get a townhouse, then maybe you go and you get a regular house, and then maybe one day you get a bigger house, and like that kind of structure of how you might go throughout your life in attaining, larger property. The missing middle housing is the difference between, well, I could attain this when I was a certain age, and I got to attain this when I was a certain age, but that in the middle is gone. And we see that in today's world, how, the structure and way in which rental and ownership is created. So there's a concept that what's missing is that middle housing, that sort of threshold housing between when I lived in an apartment and when I lived in a single family home. That can mean many, many things. In today's world, I think what it really means is attainable housing. So, but that's what that particular comp is referring to. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. To address the point as far as the truth of the matter is, we're not building this. Developers are going to build this. But if we give an idea, this is what the residents want, this is what we're looking for, that's what we mean by going back out and saying, okay, does this make sense? Is this something that the developers are going to drive to the area to do? That's what you need to figure out. But the first step is moving forward. Come up with a plan. Let's move forward. Let's put these things into play. It's time to do it. I don't think that's a bad thing. It can be misconstrued any way anybody else wants, but I don't know how else you're going to get progress in these areas except to do what we're doing. So I think it's the right way to go about it. Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve items 14 and 15.
We have to do them separately. We'll take a motion for item 14.
Sure.
Okay.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Hudak, seconded by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Motion to approve 15.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Hudak, seconded by Commissioner Preston. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 16 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving a tolling agreement with the Board of Trustees of the City of Deerfield Beach Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust Fund regarding medical insurance related payments, providing for execution, and an effective date. If I may, Mayor, I want to give a little summary on this item.
Please.
Back in late 89, early 1990, the city entered into an interlocal agreement with the Broward Sheriff's Office that essentially transferred all then existing City of Deerfield Beach police officers to become BSO deputy sheriffs. Around that time, the city approved an MOU related to medical insurance coverage for those officers who were ultimately transferred to BSO. Additionally, back in 2006, there was a second MOU entered into between the city and the Police Officer Retirement Trust Fund. Several months ago, apparently, some of the plan members and or the plan contacted HR about certain payments related to health insurance. It was discovered also in certain cases, the city didn't get notification even that these individuals had now retired from BSO. Fast forward a few months, it's brought to my attention as well as the attention of the city manager regarding this issue. So we engaged with the pension attorney as well as some of the representatives on a couple of calls to see if we could attempt to resolve the issue regarding interpretation in the 2006 MOU and in the 1989-1990 MOU. There's a little bit different language in there with respect to qualification for these benefits. Since the last several months, we have been in discussions with them. We have engaged in document sharing. The city manager and I attended one of their last meetings to at least represent that we were willing to work with them, forego litigating the matter, which, as we know, can take potentially several years in the interim, and that we were interested in engaging with them in mediation to see if we could resolve it. Neither myself nor the city manager were around in 2006 to know exactly what the thoughts and intent were behind the 2006 agreement. And so a lot of the documentation on these matters are several decades old. So what you have before you is a proposed tolling agreement that would essentially provide for the respective rights with respect to statutes of limitations. For example, in Florida, there's a 5-year statute of limitations on contract. So that would freeze that. So there's no disadvantage, at least to either party, as of February 1 of 2024. If, let's say, we enter into mediation, we're not able to work it out, and one of the parties wants to sue, it wouldn't be held against them or us, let's say, at least as of February of this year, in terms of that time period in question, while we're trying to resolve that. Mr. Levinson, I believe, is on Zoom. He's the pension plan attorney. In case there are any questions regarding their positions on this matter, he's represented to me that they're ready, willing, and able to sign this and engage in mediation. The agreement provides for us to select a mutually acceptable mediator and to split the costs. And then if we're not able to work it out, either party can terminate it at any time. I'm, of course, available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for clarity, because this has been misrepresented by people out there, this is going to mediation because there's a conflict between the 2006 agreement and the 8990 agreement. That's not a clear-cut path.
Yeah, so there's a difference in qualifications and language in that. And, I think we may, at least as of now, based on the documentation we have a little difference of opinion, probably maybe a big difference of opinion with respect to the interpretation of the 2006 agreement. And we're really trying to get to the bottom of it. And, I think both parties at least have committed orally through their representatives that let's share all the documents we have. Let's get together, see if we can resolve this, shed a little more light, help the city understand a little bit more too what documentation they may have on this matter.
Have we been able to close the one big gap that we have, that the city doesn't receive any notifications when these members retired? Have we been able to solve that problem? Because it's really hard to give out if you don't know that people are retired.
Yes, Mayor. To my knowledge, the plan and the plan administration, they are notifying us of these individuals at this point and recognized that flaw.
Okay, excellent. That's good to hear. Okay, thank you. Anyone from the public here to ask this item, ma'am? I know you were waiting.
Hi again. Thank you for your time. My name is Sherry Ring. I live at 2231 Northeast Point, Florida. My husband is Joseph Ring. He was a Broward Sheriff's deputy for 32 and a half years. Barbara Anderson is back there. Her husband was a BSO deputy for 34 years. Her son works for the city, or used to, and or for the BSO Deerfield, and so does her son-in-law. And so did Kevin's father. So we have a long legacy of people that worked for the city of Deerfield Beach in the city. My husband never left the city. He worked on the motor unit. He was here for 32 and a half years. I would think to say that most of the people that have been that are having this issue with not getting their stipend stayed with the city, worked in the city, gave their time to the city. So I'm not really sure what's going on with the agreement. I know that Mr. DeFrida is the one that signed that agreement in 2006, and he's very elderly and old. And I think that if anything needs to be done, then they probably should get some sort of sworn statement from him, because he is the one that signed the agreement. Angie Giannani, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He is still on the board, on the pension board. But it's a lot of money we're talking about, and we're talking about a lot of people, and we're talking about a lot of people that have passed on that didn't receive their stipend. The agreement states that they were supposed to get 50% is what BSO would cover. And then you guys were supposed to cover the other half, less what the other city people would be making or whatever. Where that came from, I don't know. But Mr. Jafrida is the one that signed that agreement. I don't know where they're getting this 10-year stipulation or whatever, but the original agreement basically stated that everybody was entitled to this stipend, less whatever BSO did. And then another agreement was issued with Mr. Jafrida in 2006. And it was my understanding that the reason why he said it at one of our meetings was that because people were not getting paid. People were not getting paid. People were not getting a cost of living on it. The insurance rates would go up and they would be stuck at the same amount. And we're talking a lot of money here. We're not talking about pennies. We're talking probably about millions of dollars. And my husband's not here because he's very aggravated. They're telling me they were just made aware of this a few months ago. We've been dealing with Diana at the administrative HR office. She was all ready to give Kevin Anderson his money. Then when everybody else started calling, there was red flags going off. There's people that have gotten the money that fall into that they haven't been, a 10-year tenure with the city. It's just all over the place. And it's, to me, I think it's an administrative problem that broke down. There have been deputies that have gone to, the city and asked for their money, if I may have
Give me
it.
another minute.
They have asked for, for their stipend, and we're told that, either it fell on deaf ears, they never got. So people have inquired, people have asked about it. We opened the can of worms as per se, and people are being cherry picked as to who got the money and who didn't. I mean, where they made that determination, I don't know, but there are people that are getting a stipend and there are people that are not getting a stipend. And it hasn't gone up or changed, or they just got a flat rate, nothing never, so to me, it just seems like it's an administrative problem. And I hope that you can get to the bottom of it. And that's basically, and I appreciate your time, and I hope you listen to this, and I hope that everybody is in agreement, because if not, it will go legal. We will, and the bottom line is the city pays the pensions lawyer too. So, either way you're paying for it, we're paying for it. That's in the agreement as well. So, I mean, the bottom line is that, my husband's ready to go get a lawyer, and so are all the other guys, and we're talking about 50 or so,
Sure. Thank you.
retired.
Appreciate it,
Okay.
man. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you pass that out? Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. I really am not sure why the city is entering into a tolling agreement for mediation with the Board of Trustees of the Deerfield Beach Police Officers Retirement Trust Fund. I thought in mediation, both sides are supposed to deal fairly and tell the truth. Unfortunately, the city is not dealing truthfully. The handout you have is an email to me from the attorney for the Police Board of Trustees, Adam Levinson. As you can read, Mr. Levinson is stating the city attorney's office knew about this issue way back in late 2023, at least 9 months ago. But at the July 9th commission meeting, the city manager said something entirely different, and I want to quote him exactly. So nobody is avoiding the police pension board. It wasn't until mid-May that myself and Anthony Soroka became abreast of the situation. So the next available meeting for us to attend was the one that we attended on June 27th. So as I said on July 9th, why was the city stonewalling the police pension board? Now that we know our city manager was not telling the truth, would he or the city attorney like to tell the taxpayers the real reason for the stonewalling of the retired police officers who put their lives on the line every day that they went to work to protect us? And what about the mayor, who said the following on July 9th after I was done speaking? He said, Mr. City Manager, do you want to address the inaccuracies from Mr. Hers regarding the police pension board? So I ask, what were my so-called inaccuracies? I care a lot about people besmirching my reputation. If you have no answer, then I will accept a public apology from you tonight, as long as you are sincere.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. I honestly can't keep track of all your inaccuracies, but I will try to see if my memory will help me, but I'll let Mr. Santucci address some of this. And Mr. Soroka.
Yeah, well, Well, what I can tell you is that the first meeting that I had with staff who could accurately provide me the information, it was, as Mr. Soroka mentioned, we're talking about records that go back decades and decades. I think the day before one of their pension plan meetings that we weren't aware of. I wasn't aware that they were having a meeting at that point. And there was some additional follow-up that needed to be done that came out of that meeting. So following that meeting, the next available one was the one that we attended. I thought we had some good conversation with the board. And what I told them at that meeting was, look, to the extent that the city owes money to retiree police officers, we're going to do that. But as you heard from Mr. Soroka, there's a difference of agreement on what that language is. And hopefully we can work that out as quickly as possible. That's really my goal, to try to get to a resolution as quickly as possible. If we owe money to retired police officers, then that's what we need to do. But until we get to that point where we have an agreement of what that looks like, we're hoping that this tolling agreement will allow us to proceed with that mediation.
Yeah, and I'd just like to clarify that, Milton Collins in my office, who I think you all know, does a decent amount of labor work for the city and probably is more in closer communication with Mr. Levinson than I am, certainly on a month-to-month basis. So I think back in November, I think it was an issue about maybe one person. There was more digging that needed to be done and more exploration in that regard. So what I was speaking to is it was brought to my attention in May that there's a larger issue here that needed to be addressed. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Mr. Hudak? Commissioner Hudak, sorry.
That's fine. I go by either or. From what I understand, Mr. Levinson is on the line. Maybe we can hear from him as far as any questions or concerns he has of the city or wants to bring anything up to the commission.
I need to be unmuted.
You are.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
it is not my goal today, everybody, to go into the weeds. The main objective I want to accomplish is to move things forward, and I want to thank everybody who spoke today for helping to accomplish that objective. I also want to thank the city attorney's office for more or less agreeing to expeditiously move through mediation. I think, as everybody knows, mediation can take as long as the parties want it to take and can be used as a means of slowing things down and delay. I don't think it's the city's objective, I don't think, and it's certainly not the board's objective to use mediation as a way of slowing down the process. So again, my only objective today, and I'm only here to answer questions, not to give a presentation, is the tolling agreement serves the interests of the members because it protects their rights and gives the city an opportunity and the board to get everyone's ducks in a row and make sure informed decisions can be made. And again, it's not my objective today to give a presentation. I'm just supporting adoption of the resolution, which sends us in the right direction. And again, I thank everyone who spoke, and I appreciate the goal of moving the process forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Hudak.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hudak. We have a second from Commissioner Parnas. Let's do roll call.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Drosky,
Yes.
Mayor Gantz.
Yes. Just to address one of your inaccuracies, to go back to that, Mr. Hers, here's something that you like to put out in the public. Make no mistake about it, Santucci's stonewalling and disrespect of the police force was done with the full knowledge and approval of Mayor Gans and Vice Mayor Drosky. You must have complete disrespect for the rest of my colleagues who seem to make these decisions along with us. You can look up and ignore it, but the fact of the matter is you don't tell the truth when you put these things out there. You selectively go after the people you don't like. I'm pretty sure you guys knew all about it as well. I'm pretty sure you make these decisions with us, but apparently in Mr. Hers's mind, he thinks that it's just Mayor Gans and Vice Mayor Drosky who do all these things, which just shows that he has no clue what he's talking about. Thank you.
We are now at comments by administration and legal. No comments from legal tonight.
I have several comments this evening, Mayor, but if I could come up to do so, I think that'd be appropriate. As you all are already aware, but I will say this publicly, it is with a heavy heart that I have resigned from my position as city manager for the city of Deerfield Beach, effective October 3rd, 2024. This has been a tremendous opportunity for me and a chapter of my life that I will never forget. And I am so grateful for it. I am grateful that you all encouraged me to some degree to look at this position as something that I could do beyond just the interim role. And since that time, I am so happy with the things that we achieved. I want to thank this commission for being, which is in my opinion, the most professional, cordial, and goal-driven commission that I have ever seen on this dais. You have, in that regard, made my life easy. You have made it very difficult in other ways, but in that respect, I thank you. I want to thank the city staff. As I sat here tonight and I watched each one of these directors come up to you, present professionally, knowing the issues, knowing the information, and all I have to do is bring them up here to do so. It is a very proud moment and a reiteration to me of how excellent this staff is. And I want to, and I know I'm not allowed to turn around, so I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart for building what we have. The culture of this organization has changed for the better. There is a focus on our core values that is growing, and it's not my core values. This is not something that will die when I leave. This is something that will build as an organization as we move forward, no matter who takes my place, because it has become the organization's strategic objectives. It has become the organization's core values, not just mine. So this decision is not about Deerfield Beach. If I could take 80% of Deerfield Beach and move it with me, I would. This is a decision for my family. We have talked about making a move out of state for quite some time. And in this line of work, when the opportunity presents itself, sometimes you just have to go after it. And I did in this case. So I wanted to just set the record straight about what this is about and what it is not about. I am truly grateful for this opportunity that I've had, for the time that I've been here wholeheartedly. And I am here to see the next 60 days through and do whatever it is that you need me to do to ensure as smooth of a transition as possible. And with that, I will end that discussion. I have some business items that I also like to attend to, please. This is more of a housekeeping items. The first is that unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, we had to cancel both the CRA meeting and the budget presentation for next week. So we were looking to reschedule those dates. It seems as though collectively amongst the commission, the best date for the budget presentation would be August 28th at 7 p.m. That seems to be the best we could do. So I wanted to just see if that would work for all of you. It's a little close to the actual hearing date of the budget, but last year I do think that there was a lot of value in presenting the budget around the time that we released it. So to the extent that the commission would still like to do that, I'm more than happy to do that on August 28th or another date that can be agreed upon.
Do you want to have a conflict with August 28th? We're okay?
I don't have a conflict. I would prefer the 29th, but
I can't do the 29th.
it's either that Wednesday or Thursday. So you're out Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday I have a conflict.
Wednesday it is.
Okay. And then for the CRA meeting, that's got some substantive items on there. So we were looking at, we have a commission meeting August 20th. And based on some other scheduling conflicts later in that week, it seemed as though the only time to do that would be prior to the city commission meeting at 6 p.m. On August 20th. That would be the CRA meeting.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Moving on, I want to talk about and give you guys an update on the Packer Rattlers. Where to begin? So the Packer Rattlers, unfortunately, will not have a season this year. I heard from Mr. Philpott today that the one team that he was able to field, he did not feel comfortable moving forward based off the commitment of that team and the expenses that the city would incur by just fielding one team. And that requires a little bit of explanation. So I'm going to take a step back. There was a point in time when the Deerfield Beach Packer Rattlers organization, which is it's a Sun-Bized organization. It's not affiliated with the city. The city supports them financially. We support them with soft costs, but they are their own entity. So there was a point in time not too long ago where Mr. Philpott, who was the president of the organization, he is the registered agent, needed to step down. He had started, if you remember, he had started that organization back up and did a tremendous job getting a lot of those teams back in place. And I think, I don't know why he needed to step down, but he did a great job in doing so. So when he needed to step down, it was time for new leadership. He had discussions with the new leadership, felt comfortable with what he was being told. And from that point, he stepped down and new leadership came on. Under the new leadership, there were some allegations of misappropriation of funds that came to the city of Deerfield Beach directly from Mr. Philpott, who was not involved at that time, as soon as he was made aware of that. Now, right now, there's a couple of things going on. So let's start with the misappropriation, the allegation of misappropriation of funds. The city of Deerfield Beach, through their agreement with the Packer Rattlers, has the ability to audit their records. So we have formally requested to audit all their records, and we are doing so and gathering the information from them as we speak. The important thing for the city commission to know and for the residents to know is that this allegation of misappropriation of funds could not have been city funds. And the reason for that is the city of Deerfield Beach's agreement and the way that we have worked with the Packer Rattlers in the past is the expenditures of city funds must be either cost reimbursement or direct invoice payment for the program supplies and services and those sorts of things. So if there was a misappropriation of funds from the Packer Rattlers, then it would be funding other than what the city provided to them. Nonetheless, if there was misappropriation of funding with an organization that we are contributing to, that is cause for concern, and we need to look into that, of course. So that is what we're doing. The other thing that has occurred recently since these allegations is the new leadership, or now we're just going to refer to them as the second leadership, has stepped down, and Mr. Philpott has stepped back in. So here's a gentleman who, decided I've had enough, did my part, I'm going to turn over the reins, started to see things go awry, came right back in. Did what he could in order to salvage whatever he could with the Packer Rattlers organization and teams for the benefit of the community, but more in particular, a place where these kids can play football. So he inherited one team. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, that team has not really shown the effort that's really needed. Because the problem is unless you have, I think it's 4 or 5 teams total, or it might even be 6, you can't have home games in the league. So every game that they're going to play is going to be a traveling game, which means we have to foot the bill of the transportation for one team. It's going to be very expensive. And for my opinion, you know, and as I told Mr. Philpart, you know, I'll be willing to do that for that one team so that we can, you know, maybe hopefully regain some momentum and see what happens. But unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition. So I wanted to tell you where that was at, why it is what it is. But you know, I'm happy to discuss more with the commission about maybe some recommendations for the future if you're interested. The last thing I want to mention is the 15th Ave Bridge survey. So the bridge survey closed, I think today or yesterday, and we had well over 600 responses. I'm going to see if I can pull it up right now. I don't have all the results and those sorts of things. I just have a few of the numbers. Yeah, we had close to 650 responses for our neighborhood bridge, which is incredible. And what I want to just point out to the commission is the survey that the residents received was a result of the workshop that we had with them just about a month ago, I think it might have been. And they were very adamant, those that were in attendance, that they wanted to see different options than what we were presenting. Every option that we were presenting was cast in the light of, you know, Vision Zero, making sure that we provided the most multimodal traffic options over that bridge crossing as possible. But they felt it was a little heavy in terms of width, and that for a neighborhood bridge, it wasn't necessarily appropriate. So we provided 2 other options that weren't as wide, if you will, and we released the survey from there. So the interesting thing, and as soon as we gather all these results, we're going to, and within the next few days, I think we'll be able to do that. We'll provide those results to each of you, and we'll provide it to the residents who have asked to, you know, see the results. Anybody who took this survey and gave us an email address, we want to make sure that they see the survey results. So the first option, which provided the most multimodal options of having a bicycle path and a sidewalk, and I think that it was on both sides, that was actually had the most ratings, believe it or not. That actually had close to about 40% of the votes. However, and this is a big however, if you take the results of the other 2 options, which were a little bit more compact, smaller, had a sidewalk on one side, and the difference between those 2 options, so bridge, sidewalk, the difference between options 2 and 3 was a wall to separate the pedestrian traffic from the roadway, okay? So those 2 options combined outweighed option 1 in its entirety. You see what I'm saying? So decisions to be made, but the plan was, I just want to make sure the commission's okay with this, unless there's something else you want us to do, is put the survey out there, come back with you with that information on August 20th to get some direction from you with, of course, public input on how to proceed. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Preston and Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to thank the city manager for coming forward and sharing with us. I'd like to thank you for the job that you did for the city of Deerfield Beach. I wish nothing but the best for you and your family, and I hope it all works out. Certainly, times like this can be extremely challenging. You know, it's amazing that I think that a lot of the time that we're all on the same side, meaning that we have the residents and the city at heart. But we don't always get to the same point the same way at the same time. There's certainly a lot of challenges. You listen to the commission. I didn't know that I personally offended you that much that you want to leave, but I'm just kidding. So
Oh, I
But
did.
Yeah, he told you what.
but the best to you. And, sometime when I'm up here with my colleagues, sometimes it can be very challenging because, I can feel that, we're all going in the same direction, but we have different feelings about different things. And it's actually kind of good. And it means a lot to me, even when something doesn't go in my favor, that I know that they have the city at their heart, that they were thinking of the city, thinking of the residents. And you did good with that. And so this, me being a part of this dais, appreciate that kind of commitment. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am extremely proud of how our city manager has grown into this position. He has come a long way, and I think this diocese has come a long way as well with him. Some of the things that I'm extremely proud of are the leaders that he has groomed, that he has brought into the organization. I really feel that the city is in a much better place from a leadership standpoint than when he actually was hired. The other thing that I really want to commend you with, and I really appreciate, is the win-win attitude that you're always looking for. There are certain times where, yeah, this is the law and this is how it's got to be, and we always try to look for a win-win solution where it's available. And I do appreciate you working with me and our residents in those situations. It's tremendously appreciative, and it's easy to work with you. I know technically you work for us, but we all work together. And as my colleague just said, our job is to make our city move forward. And you did that for us for the last 5 years, so that's tremendously appreciated. I think at this point, though, we do need to direct staff to, I know that we have some agreements with some headhunters, and I think it's appropriate that we need to start the ball rolling as quick as possible. We only have 60 days, and these things take time in order to recruit the right people. So I think that's something that we as a diocese should try to make that decision today, to direct staff to move forward, as opposed to waiting to the next commission meeting or the next one, where October 3rd is going to be upon us at any minute. And again, thank you for your service, David. Great job.
Thank you. Move on to the next item.
We are now at item 17, discussion on city's response regarding Monarch Hill.
Would you like me to start, Mayor? Yeah.
Please.
So I did put this under city commission comments, but it's something that I did put on, and I want to make sure that the commission gets the opportunity to have some discussion about this if they need to. And I also want to make sure that the public is aware of what's happening here. So there's two things happening with Monarch Hill. One is related to expansion of it from a width perspective, or on the land. The other one is an expansion in the height. Okay. So currently, as of today, the waste management has no rights to do either. Okay. However, through a land use plan amendment, they have the ability to take the old waste to energy facility, which was recently demolished, and change the zoning from energy generation to, I believe it's landfill. It's probably something else. Eric's probably pulling out his hair right now, but we'll call it landfill. A6. A6 is what it's called. So that land use plan amendment is going to go before the city, the county. The other thing that they do not have the ability to do, but the process that exists today, is to increase the height of the landfill by another 100 feet, currently authorized at 225 feet. They're not there yet, to 325 feet through a variance process. Okay. A variance in which would not go before the county commission. However, recently, a county commissioner directed and looked for the vote, and they got the vote, directed the county attorney to craft a zoning change for the A6 zoning to allow by right the height of the landfill to go up to 325. So those two things have been lurking out there, and recently they have announced the dates for that, which I'm looking for right now, excuse me. So those dates are going to be, first it's got to go before, like, it's similar to like RP and Z. So it's going to go before them on August 14th. And so it's going to go before their local planning agency on August 14th. And then it will go before the county commission on September 17th for first reading and October 8th for second reading. So that's the Reader's Digest. I want to make you aware.
Can you give me those dates one more time, please?
Sure. It'll go before their local planning agency on August 14th.
Yeah.
First hearing is September 17th. That's with the county commission. And the second hearing would be on October 8th. So in preparation for this, obviously one outreach initiative is what we're doing here today, and all the documentation is attached to this item for you and the public so that they can become educated on this. In addition, our Public Affairs and Marketing Department will be starting a campaign here, if not today, by the end of this week, to start ramping up the information that goes out to the public on this. And in addition, I know that at least Commissioner Drosky has held an HOA meeting or two where this item has also been discussed. And I'll leave. That's all I have for this item, Mayor.
Thank you. Just on this matter, I had discussions with the county commissioner who put this on the agenda, as well as with Greg Ross, who is the mayor of Cooper City, who was in charge of the, what is it, the resource?
No,
it's not called
Solid Waste Authority now,
Authority.
formerly
Yes.
the Resource Recovery Board.
Yeah. Same bureaucracy, different title. And I can tell you, Greg is, Mayor Ross is extremely frustrated. This has been put forward. I feel like this is something that was negotiated by Beam Fur without really the input of his colleagues or anyone else, and seems to be well intended, as all initial mistakes by government are. And then this is going down a path that is not a good thing. I think we need to have a calculated effort to make sure that we get people together. We need to make sure that we have people on buses, if need be, to get as many people to these hearings as possible. And this is not a matter of meeting fatigue. I think we need to pull out the big guns on this right away. They might not necessarily have to be there for the planning section of it, but when it comes before the county commission, we need to be there. We need to contact our county commissioner, who's been absent on this in the city of Deerfield Beach, as far as what his opinion is and position is on it. He has not communicated with me. Perhaps he's communicated with others, but we need to make sure we have all of them engaged and letting them know what the impact would be on us here in the city. So I want us to make a full frontal attack on this to make sure that this doesn't go down the path that they're trying to make it go. That's all I have to say, Vice Mayor Drosky.
I don't remember the exact vote when the county passed it, but I know obviously it passed, and I do remember Commissioner Bogan speaking against it pretty vociferously, but the other ones not so much. I think even Commissioner Fisher voted for it, if I remember correctly.
No.
So no?
No, he did not.
Okay, let's wait your turn, please, Commissioner. We'll get
I'm
to-
sorry.
That's okay.
But we have some heavy lifting to do on this. And as the city manager indicated, I have been in outreach with Independence Bay and Waterways in particular, but some of the other surrounding communities out there. In addition to a couple of the electeds in Coconut Creek, they intend, I think, to send buses as well And we need to do the same. It can't be just the the county commission hearing from Coconut Creek. They need to know that Deerfield Beach is involved as well. And that we're just as pissed off as they are, because right now they're only hearing from Coconut Creek. There's in the packet, it has all 9 county commissioners' contact information, because it's a vote, just like us. All 5 of us vote, all 9 of them vote as well. So we need to reach out to all 9 county commissioners and let them know our opinions. I've been giving the packet out, electronically, or on paper to whoever will ask for it. And hopefully those communications are being made, but we have to assist our residents in this matter too. And I think the mayor hit the nail right on the head that we need to attend in person the September 17 and October 8 meetings. I asked theoretically the city manager if we could do that before these dates were announced. Now that the dates are out there, Mr. City Manager, I would ask that if we can arrange transportation. I know you said there may be an issue with drivers, but we need to look into that and get that resolved so that we can have coordinated transportation to both of these meetings going forward.
Do we need any more clear direction? Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, we are now at comments by mayor and city commission.
My hand up.
Okay, sorry, Commissioner Parnas. Go right ahead.
When I sat on the planning council, we voted 18-0 against this. We got a postponement from the county commission voting by several commissioners who put up a fight. There is a chance we can defeat this, but it's going to take work. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road. Our garbage goes to Orlando. We don't even use this facility, yet it's in our neighborhood, and they want to make it worse. And it's going to be up to everybody to fight, to show up, to tell them we're not going to put up with it, because it affects our health, it affects our homes, it affects the price of our homes. If you want to sell it and people smell the garbage, adding 100 feet, I don't know how many of you have taken the trip, as I have, to the top of the dump now. You can see the ocean. Add another 100 feet, you'll probably be able to see Cuba. You can literally see the ocean now. It's only going to get worse. They say 90% is industrial. That means old buildings with asbestos are being buried in our backyard. Not healthy for us. We got to solve the problem. Part of the committee is to build a plant to burn garbage and turn it into electricity. That's a solution. Just kicking the can down the road, giving them another 100 feet. Incidentally, they lost the bid to change where they had the plant on the north side of Wilds Road into part of the dump when they were turned down. One of the county commissioners got them to postpone the vote until the fall, September. So make up your minds. You're going to fight this, or you're just going to stay home and smell it. That's your choice, because it's only going to get worse, not better. What they're planning to do is take us to the cleaners for their own profit, and it doesn't solve the problem. What's going to happen when they hit the next 100 feet? They'll ask for another 100 feet and the county will give it to them. The time to stop them is now. And that means we all gotta put our shoulder to the wheel. It's up to the community. You could say, who cares? Smell the garbage, live with the filth, or you can fight. It's up to you. I say fight.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Santucci, can you make sure that each one of us has given us a synopsis of the chain of events, what's being proposed, current conditions compared to what is being proposed, so we all are well educated on it. So when we choose to make appearances there, that we have a well-informed group.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. And just to remind everybody, when Waste Management was here in front of us a few months back, they knew that they had already put through one of the items just for review from county staff, but they weren't forthcoming with that when they came before us. So that'll give you an idea of what we're dealing with from an entity that is a private entity, but certainly doesn't seem to want to serve the public. Thanks.
Okay, you're now at comments by mayor and city commission.
Okay, District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. First, I will be out of the country from September 9th to September 20th. So I'm not sure if I'll have internet capability or not. So I know that we have a meeting at some point in that time frame, and I'll make every attempt to attend it, but I probably won't know until I'm actually on the boat. In 2006, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. In 2006, last year's Deerfield Beach High School graduating class were not even born. In 2006, a new social network opened up. Its name was Facebook. In 2006, we had 9 planets in our solar system, at least until August when Pluto was downgraded to a dwarf planet. In 2006, this iPhone wasn't even in existence. It didn't come out until 2007. Also in 2006 was the last year that our city charter was reviewed. When I was first elected in 2019, I brought forward a request to this dais to support a resolution to establish a charter review committee. At that time, the dais was not in support of this request, and we did not move forward. 3 members of this dais will be termed out in next March, but we still have an opportunity to impact the direction of our city for years after we are all off the dais. I am hopeful that this body's opinion has changed, and I now have your support to give the city attorney authority to begin the process of providing us options for the establishment of a charter review committee. It's been 18 years, and I think it's time that we look at the city charter. So I'm going to make a motion that we direct the city attorney to establish a city charter review committee, and I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Usually if we're taking an action item on something, we open it to the public.
You can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mayor. I thought you were asking me a question.
But I was going to say that I think the proper thing to do is to put this on the agenda for discussion, as opposed to us voting on it at the end of the meeting when a lot of people have left and aren't there, and giving us time to even absorb what you've offered.
Okay.
So is that fair to put it on the agenda for something that we can vote on at the next commission meeting?
Sure. I can work with Commissioner Hudak and
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. So probably gonna look for you to, that's all right.
I'll rescind my motion.
Thank you. So we'll look for it for the next commission meeting.
Thank you. Artificial turf in the front yards. Other cities allow artificial turf in the front yard. Drive in our city and you'll find numerous residents who have illegally installed artificial turf in their front yards. Some have been cited by code, but others are not. Some have used high-quality products and installation methods, but not all. I'm of the opinion that we need to look at the guidelines implemented by our surrounding cities like Lighthouse Point and Pompano Beach that allow artificial turf in the front yards, but provide strict regulations on the quality of the artificial turf and the installation requirements. There are numerous drawbacks to installing artificial turf. It can be very hot in the summer. It's expensive to install and maintain. It only lasts 10 years, and it can smell from pet wastes. Those deterrents, however, should not be regulated by the city. If a resident does their research and still wants to install this product in their front yard, then that should be their choice as long as they follow strict product quality, installation process, and replacement timelines. I understand there are studies regarding this product, especially surrounding drainage, but the product and its installation methods have improved greatly over the years, and it's here to stay. As such, we as a city should have provided strict guidelines to those individuals who wish to install this product in their front yards. And I'd like to hear the city's commission on their opinion of modifying and allowing this product to be installed in the front yards of our residents.
Thank you. That might be another one that would maybe add to the agenda as discussion item, just so we can do some homework, because I can give you some history as far as why it was put in place, what some of the problems were. Certainly the technology has changed, but I can tell you, and I know Commissioner Drosky, because he took over part of the problem, I think, when we went into different positions, knows what that was all about. So yeah, if we could maybe have that as a discussion item for the next meeting, that'd be good. Sure.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. First, Mr. City Manager, if you would have maintenance take a look at the lighting on the desk from the time that we've gotten, it's been flickering and just, it's been really irritating. No, so I would greatly appreciate that, sir. Secondly, here we are in 2024. Sorry. 2024 we are. Cathedral Church of God is celebrating its 100-year celebration. Think about that. 100 years ago, and they're celebrating that this Sunday. So you're all invited to come out, and that's a historical piece, that church in the city of Deerfield Beach. So they will be celebrating their 100-year anniversary. So you're all invited. When we were originally looking at the Johnny Tigner Center, there was challenges about whether we should enlarge the ballroom area. Many of our events is over at the DoubleTree, and we discussed whether we should make that area bigger. And I had not gone in there until recently. I had a tour of the Johnny L. Tigner Center. We're going to be able to do some very wonderful things for this city over there. It is so impressive in there. It was the right thing to do. So that came with a lot of debate, and we know that it would cost more. But if you go over and look at the DoubleTree and then look at what we have here in the city of Deerfield Beach, we're going to be able to rent that thing out. We're going to make money. We can now compete with them. That is an impressive building. And I would just invite everyone in the community just to go over there. When it's finished, it's going to be an asset to our community. Aesthetically, it's beautiful. And it's a wonderful job that was done there. I really appreciate it. And just recently, over at Westside Park, when was it last? We had the was it last weekend? Okay. Last weekend was a tremendous event over at the Westside Park. It was really nice. The people came out. It was a good event. I'd like to thank BSO for the wonderful job that they did, and I really appreciated it. But it was really hot out there. But and I'm talking about the backpack giveaway. It was actually awesome, and we need to remember why we do that. And that was named for a wonderful officer, Harold Morrison, that started that program, who was very serious about kids getting education, and that's the whole idea of getting them the backpack. So there are books in there. Books mean education. There's a lot of pluses there. I'd like to thank my colleagues for coming out. I think only Commissioner Drosky did it right because he had on shorts, and I was sweating to death. I mean, it was unreal because I had on long pants. You did it right. Okay. So next time, trust me, I'm coming in a bathing suit. So, so it's a little tough. I'd also like to thank staff for what they did in contribution to making that a very successful venture. Thank you, staff. Sometimes I just sit back and look at what our employees do here. We have a great set of employees. We have good people who are directing them. We have a good city, but I think that we need to recognize what is good. And when we see what is good, make sure that we're communicating it to the people who are actually doing the task. It was just a wonderful thing over there last week. It was just awesome, that backpack giveaway. So thank you all. And if you're not doing anything on Sunday, 10 o'clock, come over to Cathedral. They sure like to see you over there. Yeah, 10 o'clock. That's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you. District 3?
Yes. For a change, I do have a few things. David, I'm sorry to see you go because it's a loss to the city. But you and I had a talk, and in your position in management, your family has a lot to do with where you go and what you do. And I understand you have family where you're going and a job you couldn't say no to. And I can only wish you the best because you specifically honed me into a commissioner. You don't really know what you're getting into until you're there. And when you have a professional who can sit down with you and discuss facts, what to look up, what the background material says, what education you need to vote and vote for the good of the city. David, I want to thank you. 7 years, you've become more than the city manager to me. You've become my savior and my friend. And I only wish you the best. Wherever you go, I know you'll do a good job. So good luck and Godspeed. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you. District 4?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a couple minor comments tonight. I'm going to pass on those. I'm also, city manager, no disrespect, going to pass on the platitudes tonight because tonight's not goodbye by any stretch of the imagination. We've got 60 more days out of you and we're going to take full advantage of that. But Commissioner Hudak was right. We need to start the replacement process tonight and not wait to the next meeting. So I know we have a couple headhunters, he referred them to, companies that are under contract with the city now. There's Colin Bessinger, and then there's GovHR, something like that. It's in my notes here. In my research, the GovHR seemed to be the better of the two to proceed with. So I don't know what my colleague's take is. But I do not want to leave this meeting without a motion directing staff to contact, one of those companies to move forward.
Well, do you need a motion or can we just give you?
I think a motion would be great.
Yeah. Anyone from the public care to comment on that? I'm going to close it. Ms. Freitag, go ahead.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast Second Street. I apologize, Diaz. What did I just miss?
What do you mean? What did you just miss?
I missed understanding what Commissioner Drosky is requesting.
The motion the motion that's being made, that's going to be made or is about to be made, is to have us move forward immediately with one of our under contract headhunters to go out and start the process of finding a new city.
Indeed. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. I apologize. I glanced away for just a moment and I missed it. I do apologize. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Commissioner. Sorry, Vice Mayor Drosky. I usually do pay attention to everything you say. Thank
That
you.
makes
guys.
one. That's good. Thank you. Ms. Clark, former representative, go ahead.
Yes, on the issue that's on the table right now that Commissioner Drosky has brought forth, are you going to be changing any of the rules that you're going to be giving the headhunters to look at when it comes to the city manager's position? Example, living in the city of Deerfield Beach.
Thank you. Carrie, go right ahead. Carrie, I think you're on mute. Carrie? Okay, sorry, we're going to have to move on.
Yes, I'm sorry. Hello?
Yes, Carrie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry. I constantly have a problem there. I would just like to make a suggestion as far as going forward with looking for a new city manager. From personal experience, I worked 27 years in the city of Delray Beach. I agree with getting started soon, but this is not a quick process. We've had a revolving door up there of city managers. I mean, I lost count over the 25 years, especially in the last 10 years. You know, they come and go and there's lawsuits and everything. So as much as I know we need to a replacement, this is not, this is not a race. This should be something that's really taken a lot of consideration into who the next person is so that it's a long-term person representing our city.
Can I ask you a question? What are you
Yes.
talking about with a revolving door in lawsuits?
In the city of Delray Beach.
No,
we've
I'm
had
talking about the city of Deerfield Beach.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was saying, if I made an error there, I worked for the city of
Oh,
Delray.
you had those issues there. I understand. Okay,
Right,
thank
so
you.
that's all I'm saying. So I've learned a lesson what it's like to go through. So I would just like to see us take our time, not rush in and then wind up that we, made the wrong choice and then have to start the process all over again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Shinetsky, go ahead.
Thank you. Daniel Shinetsky, 34 Keswick B, Deerfield Beach. I think it's important to start the process. The reason why is because when we get candidates and we start the vetting process, if we choose somebody and hopefully David will still be there, he could ease the person to come in. He could ease him to come in and it would be a smooth transition. David has 7 years' experience. I think it's very important that he be able to give that experience and give guidance to whoever we choose. So, I mean, we're running a city government here. This is a business, and we need to have somebody as soon as possible. I think we should start the process now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close it to the public. I think the right thing to do is for us to move forward immediately, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to make a rush decision to hire. It's going to be a matter of getting the process started. There's no sense to wait, and we need to move forward. As far as any other, parameters or requirements for the city manager, I don't think this is the time for us to discuss that, but at least getting the process going. So we had a motion.
I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Preston, go ahead.
I don't share the conventional wisdom that's coming from, I understand why you want to start the process. And I think that I understand its intent and it has some validity. However, I'd like to think about it a little bit, because in starting the process, that may mean, in my mind, looking at what we have internally. We're going out looking for someone, maybe the answer is among us. And I like to think about that a little bit. And then if we need to move ahead with that process, but there's a lot of things in consideration that you have to look at. For me, I'm just speaking for me. And part of that is looking at what we have here now. Do we know internally if there are qualified people? Are they interested? I just need some time, space to just think about it. And that's just my opinion on it.
Okay. Commissioner Hudak, did you want to say something?
Yeah, internal people will have an opportunity to apply, just like the first time we were looking for a city manager. I think we had 2 individuals internally apply, and we actually wind up hiring one. But to start the process gives all of these individuals an opportunity to apply. By delaying it, whether it's 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, is just hurting the city. So I don't think by starting the process, we're discounting anybody, and I wouldn't, again, I wouldn't put any restrictions as far as where they live either, outside of, some kind of radius within the, around the city, because you don't want to reduce the candidate pool. So I'm going to go ahead and second that motion, that we should move forward.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, what was somebody just clarify what the motion was for me? I know
I
know the vice mayor mentioned it, but I didn't.
Going to. I guess you didn't make one, huh?
I will now to make
Okay.
a motion to direct staff to contact, GovHR for the recruitment of a new city manager.
Okay. We have a second for that?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, that's.
Okay. I'll just do mine very quickly. I think you guys have covered everything on that. I know staff has helped with some of the residents' complaints that we've had with the construction that's being done on the drainage project. I want to encourage staff to continue to do that. And David, there's going to be plenty of time for accolades or jeers later, but thank you for keeping us informed, and we're going to keep moving forward. So thank you for that. I don't have anything else.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Preston, seconded by by Commissioner Parnas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.